we drive on. No one wants to be imperfect, but then obviously there are limitations. If I was given a Ferrari to drive, I've never driven it, I have my limitations. But Schumacher can do a baby's job, like this. So those limitations are there. Physical and mental concerns, yes, I just emphasized a few points. There are limitations. We, as a human, are sensitive to certain things, the environment, my boss, my colleague, whatever. Things do make a difference on that. So, comparing the battle between these two, I think efficiency and accuracy is there, and obviously learning and adaptability. So I think in all, there's a dilemma. Okay, I'll address one of these questions with you. Might just raise hands. So, out of us who was using in an organization an AI, do you think it gave you an advantage or they saved you a time? For advantages, can I have hand? Save time? See, that is the point. I agree with you. Because again, I was emphasizing before, humans have a capacity to work in certain time. How efficient you make them, they still have these limitations. To perform a job, maybe a gentleman like me can type maybe 30 words in a minute. Whoever is a person can type 100, but then obviously it varies from person to person. So those are limitations are there. But on the other hand, if you see learning and adaptability, there is a certain path. Whatever we learn, we project and we put it on the other side and we take the outcome. So yes, we have a lot of advantages there. So I think embracing that to a certain extent, which you can give the ROI value to any organization. So I agree with that. Again, on the last part, if you see, I think driving the future is with that. Human and AI would definitely work together. There's, I don't know, we have seen in the movies a robot taking over the world. I don't think so. That's not going to happen. Unless we act like an idiot and don't give a check on the robot, yes, it might happen. Otherwise, I don't think so. These are the few proud customers we've already engaged with, and I think hats off to my sales team and my leadership. The way they're delivering it, there are a few in the pipeline as well, and hopefully this canvas will be much bigger the next time we meet. Okay, so I think my conclusion basically is this. That's the better way we can put it across. I think it has to be a collaboration between human and a machine to make this a better world. Examples are there. Right now, for example, internet was somewhere down the road, 20, 30 years was a luxury, but now it's a necessity. None of us can work without an internet. I think हमारा अगर phone बनना बंद हो जाता है, तो we become a zombie. We just run here and there, किस तरह बैटरी चार्ज हो जाए, डेटा आ जाए, खिड़की से मुंह निकाल के बाहर खड़े होते हैं यार, कहीं से तो डेटा आ जाए. And unfortunately, last few weeks was bad. I don't know what is happening behind the scene, but obviously there was a delay. So I think this is my conclusion, and I think most of you will agree with that. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a next great session and lovely panelists coming around. I'll just take a minute. Zohaib, can I have you here? Hana? Hamad? Zohaib, can I have you here? Just for a minute.
Do you want them on stage, sir? Or do you want them
I want them here. Please. Hanan, Hamad, thank you very much. I think they did a wonderful job. Can I have a good round of applause for them? I think they've done a great job. So we are all right here. Any questions you want to ask about AI? It's them. Human is me. So have a good next few sessions. Thank you again very much. Thank you, Ji.
So it sounded very Switzerland wala jawab diya वैसे. It's like you watch an entire presentation and you're wanting to see who's going to be the winner at the end, and you find out it's like, oh, we have to work together. God, I could have said that. But Not with all of the pointers. This might be a little dangerous for me. All right, so panel discussions are the way to go, right? These discussions, and our next panel discussion, I know you all have a copy of the agenda, is about where do we take this AI? What is the scope in the future of this AI? And I know a lot of people, we've been doing HR conferences, and a lot of people think that these machines are just going to take our ill will towards AI in general. And some people are able to come up in such a beautiful way. Like a few days ago, I was doing a conference for a bunch of bankers, और वो बड़े शौक से branchless banking के बारे में बात कर रहे थे, और crowd में से एक sort of bin बनाने की आवाज आई. There was a hum in the crowd where everyone was like, oh no, there goes our jobs, and what does branchless banking mean? And the gentleman who took the stage afterwards, kudos to him, he just explained how branchless banking doesn't necessarily mean humanless banking. It just means that we need to evolve, adapt, and make a branch good for something else, right? So you're just taking something to the next level. It's not being obliterated, it's not being ruined, it's just going to the next level. So now hopefully, in the next 40 minutes, our panelists and our moderator will have a great conversation that hopefully you guys could also, perhaps put some input in about, the future directions of AI. Where is it going? Where are we going? Where can we go together, like Sahil Saab said. Our moderator is, I'm going to quickly run through the introductions, whether or not the gentlemen and the people on stage. This particular conversation is Taimur Nawasa, who's been associated for over 2 decades, right? His area commercial strategy, go-to-market, product management, mobile devices, and for those of you who don't know, that is fiber to the home. So Mr. Taimur worked for many Fortune 500 companies in leadership roles, including Alcatel, Telenor, China Mobile, and San Diego-based Qualcomm Technologies in Dubai as part of the MEA region. All right. He currently works as the Director of Marketing with Transworld Associates Private Limited. Now, while they're setting up, is Taimur Saab here? Sheikh Taimur Nawasa, can I have you on stage? Up. Let's have a warm round of applause, Islamabad. So while our moderator settles himself in, I'll quickly call upon your panelists. And Taimur, I'm just doing this so that you guys can just dive right into the conversation without the formalities of introductions. Our first panelist is Mr. Zishan Ijaz, who is Vice President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan and tax partner and head office management for KPMG Lahore office with over 25 years of experience. Now, he's an integral part of the corporatization committee formed by the SECP and also serves as a member at the South Asian Federation of Accountants, which is better known to all of us as SAPA, in the Committee on, of course, Information Technology. Additionally, he also serves as chairman and member of several committees at ICAP. Welcome, Zishan Saha, to this conversation. Our next panelist, and I'm so proud of her. एक तो वैसे ही मैंने आते ही कह दिया था कि I'm a big supporter of the ladies, and so I'm always happy to forward any cause that has a woman at the helm. We're super delighted to have Ms. Kinzul Iman as our panelist for this particular conversation. She's a leading figure in integrating AI into public health with a special focus on tuberculosis control. With over 13 years of experience, she currently heads the programmatic interventions at Dopasi, which is an NGO based out of Rawalpindi, for those of you who don't know. Now, they drive AI innovations with one thing that was very interesting in particular, which was the Fujifilm FDR X-Air, which is a sort of a portable X-ray machine, which was used for global TB and COVID-19 screenings. This really changed the face of how we screen for tuberculosis in Pakistan. Now, her work includes developing the ePrevent TB app and AI-based hotspot mapping to enhance TB care and to optimize resources. Now, right now, these may seem like a bunch of words, some words, some technology, but this combination, I'm going to have to quote Sohail Saab again, but this combination of words and technology saved countless lives and also prevented innumerable cases of tuberculosis in Pakistan. So her contributions have earned the Dopasi Foundation the very coveted 2021 Cochon Prize, which obviously just highlights her role and how she transformed TB detection and management globally. So can we please have her on stage, please? Aye, ma'am. A big round of applause. Our next panelist is Mr. Sajid Aslam. Mr. Sajid is a seasoned executive with, again, over 25 years of experience in shaping organizational strategy, risk management, and corporate finance. He specializes in climate action, need of the hour, ESG investing and technology, and collaborates with governments on economic growth, climate financing, and policy frameworks. Now, for someone who has been living and working in diverse countries, he's a frequent international speaker at thought leadership forums. So with all of these fantastic credentials, can we please have on stage our next panelist, Mr. Sajid Aslam. Next panelist, I'm going to have to speed right through these because my job is to save time, not like... All right, they're getting mic'd up. Is Mr. Atif Aziz Ahmed, who brings over or almost 3 decades of experience to the stage right now in technology, both locally and internationally. Now, for the past 7 years, Atif Saab has led the IT division at Khoshali Microfinance Bank, driving key initiatives including the implementation of Temenos T24 Core Banking, Oracle ERP, thank you for getting my mic back on, and IBM Cognos Analytics. Wow, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Now, before his time at Khoshali Bank, Mr. Atif headed the technology division at Telenor Microfinance Bank, formerly Tamir, for those of you who don't know, for about 4.5 years. Now, he's always been focused on technology, strategy, and project deployments. What a vast career, an extensive traveler and speaker. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Atif Aziz Ahmed Saab. Aye, sir. Our next panelist is, our last panelist for right now, we've run out of room on the stage, is Mr. Harun Khan, who has been working at and as a part of the SAP ecosystem for over 15 years now. They really do know how to keep their family together, huh? He has extensive working experience with various industries, primarily including the public sector, oil and gas, manufacturing, comprising small enterprises. Leadership teams, their key business. And for the past 7 years, he's been working at SAP and leading the public sector industry in Pakistan. So please, let's invite to the stage Mr. Harun Khan. That's it from my side, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'll leave you with Taimur Saab. Over to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Hello. Thank you very much for the introduction. So I think a very insightful conversation so far. So we've actually covered a lot of this area. I'm not a kind of an AI guy, so to speak, but I think we had domain experts sharing a lot of information with us. So as far as this panel is concerned, the whole focus is that we're going to, our center is Pakistan, right? So we're going to focus more on the Pakistan scenario. So we've talked a lot about what's going to happen internationally, globally. So one of these gentlemen actually mentioned that the market is going to be, the market impact is more than $4 trillion US, right? So I was reading a report, staggering $1.3 trillion market by 2030. But the impact is even much more than that. And the two clusters overall globally, if I were to actually share with you, would be North America and APAC regions, because of their kind of appetite to embrace and adopt AI practices. But here, as I said, our focus would be more on how AI is going to impact the organizations in Pakistan in our particular setting. Because we have our own share of kind of inherent issues, so to speak. Right? So let's kick off without wasting much time. So with Zishan. So Zishan, you have a very kind of decades of experience within the corporate finance. So if I were to kind of, we'll talk about actually later with you on different notions around AI, but let's focus on your sector in particular. And within your sector, for instance, risk assessment, fraud management, all those areas. So how AI would actually play its role in your view? Will that be a transformation?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, this is an interesting area actually. When you talk about, particularly from the audit perspectives, risk management, risk assessment, and the technology goes hand in hand. And if you analyze what's been happening over the last 15 years or something like that, from whether we talk about from the auditor's perspective, from the KPMG or any audit firm's perspective, they have been employing a lot of tools which have been developed, and the primary objective is to somehow manage the time involvement in whole exercise, also to take care of what you call it, probable errors, which generally used to happen. You remember, I mean, we remember when we started the career, I mean, we used to have complete manual ledgers, and that was a different world. And we never thought about this would change like this in so short time. But how much the teams were spending at that time in those particular audits, those particular special investigative audits, talking about that. Now there are different teams going to the audits, going to the assignments, taking care of using those tools which have been developed actually, and getting out of it, I would say, more productive. I would say more I would say correct and to the point results with comparatively more I would say focused approach on that. And in addition to that, in any case, it has brought efficiency, it has brought error detection, it has brought somehow manage the fraud detection area. That's another area which has been core area when it comes to audits, whether it's investigative or the routine audit. When it comes to investigative audit, that's one part. External audit, that's another part. Another important area which has been the core area is the internal audit part. And when you talk about AI getting in, the real-time processing plays an important role when it comes to internal audit part. So, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's real time. If anything out of the routine is pops up, it pops up like anything. So you come to know about that thing real at that time, instead of wasting the time for waiting for an investigative auditor or an external audit highlighting that thing. So I believe these all things coming up, and I would say more facilitating the whole facility, and we are moving towards a new era, and this is supposed to happen, and this has happened.
Very well said. So I think there's clearly great value actually that AI is going to play. So moving on, I mean, you have been part of a very different sector altogether, right? Development sector, right? And you've been part of many researchers that you've been leading, specifically as you were mentioning actually to me, TB and the COVID pandemic and all that, right? So how is your learning over time, and how do you see actually, if you were to kind of give some guiding principles for organizations to adopt AI, what's your learning overall?
So what I would say is we were one of the first ones globally that started using artificial intelligence for screening, for diagnosis, and so on and so forth. and that too at the time of COVID, where distances were not that easy to cover, even if the health facility is next to my home, because of the lockdowns and everything. So AI enabled us to facilitate the patient's journey from the ease of their home through ultra-portable X-rays and artificial intelligence. We were actually able to do the diagnosis that used to take, say, 20 days in less than 20 seconds. So it's actually evolutionizing the whole era. And when we think and when we start, I would say, like, we think about future in mind and we begin with the end in our mind, because AI, as Suhail Saab mentioned this morning, it's evolving at a rate beyond human imagination. 5 years ago, we couldn't even imagine this ChatGPT thing, and even now, we don't trust the functions it's doing. And at times of investing in such resources, people tend to hold back. So I'll actually encourage everyone to invest into it, and it's going to bring more efficiencies and optimization than what we call it, return on capital invested is going to be huge. You're just not going to realize how much it is and how much potential we hold. For any organization, opting for such kind of scenarios is a word that comes to my mind is sort of dismantling inefficiencies. So actually feeling out what are the operational roadblocks happening in various areas. If, say, for example, it's some kind of incompliances are happening in stock audits, and you want some optimized scenario, that can be one thing. For us, diagnosis was one thing. One thing in the future that's standing out for us is the climate change and how that can impact certain things. So that is something. So identifying the roadblocks, what objectives you have, what are the roadblocks that you want to see, and then obviously start with experimentation. We're not going to get that 100% right anytime soon. So it's always just experimenting something and that adapting on the way to till you reach.
Hit and try is kind of,
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind of learning. So moving on to Sajid. So Sajid, I see you have a very kind of a diverse background, right? So you've been part of telco, you've been part of FMCGs, you've been part of organizations looking after the strategy function. But specifically in your current kind of commitment or venture in ESG investing and climate finance. So my question would be, how do you see AI in this particular kind of aspect as a transformation and a technology? What's the role AI can actually potentially play?
Thank you, Prem. I think the biggest role which normally I highlight, that help identify human stupidity. So that's the biggest role AI performs. So if you look at the data, and so it's picked up in a right way, we are making decision and a transactional decision on an everyday basis. And a lot of time, we are unable to identify those correlations which exist out there. And in a transactional side, people start making certain mistakes. And then that transaction, when it's, if I talk in terms of the finance side, when it's aggregated and gets somewhere, then somebody like from an audit comes up and they try to figure it out. So the entire chain basically get impacted if some human error is made. And that's very common because, so rightly, I had emotions, I had a bad day, I haven't done it right, I missed out on one process, step 1 to step 3, missed out to step 2. So I think these are the things where AI is great to identify at a transactional level to start with. Secondly, when we look on a use case, particularly on a climate action or a climate finance, I think the important part is to understand the data set which we generate from one area. For example, we take agriculture as an example. There is a more peak, like in Pakistan, we do a wheat crop in 4.5 months. In UK, we do 9 months. So then there's a correlation that when that wheat is going in a market, where it's coming from, right? So that's one side of it. But if you look at the downstreams and the upstream, there's a fertilizer, there are pesticides, there's a water, there's a storage, there's a transportation. Now let's think about your rains or extra heat where the wheat get harvested a month earlier. And now it changes everything.
Cycle change.
The entire cycle changes.
Yeah.
Right? and the market is ready for it or not ready for it, that's been waste. That goes up to the biggest impact we have seen, and specifically in a New York Stock Exchange. These impact directly the share price and the ability of the organization to raise funding later. That's a one side of it, right? If they're unable to identify these cycles, which are happening very frequently, and it is expected, it's not that it's no more something which organized nice to have, it is expected by the investors that organization will crack the entire ecosystem and make the decision timely, or let the risk be transparently communicated to the investor that this is what's happening in this quarter or not. So that's one side of it, and it's impact the price. Number two, there's a lot of expectation by the investor, and now with the regulations in EU and some of the regulations which are impacting Pakistan directly, whether it's textile or we are talking about the cross-border carbon adjustment regulations, they require data which need to be presented, collected, managed in a certain way, and that has to come out as a report. And then again, the data is not working in isolation, it requires correlation. And if we try to view it through humans, we might be talking about a lot of Excel, a lot of human beings sitting there, they are debating, they will have their own biases and experiences and all that. And that's where AI come into play, and they pick up the data and they process it in a different level, and then create those recommendations which a human being is supposed to do. We might be able to do that in a 6 months effort. We can get it we can get it done through a one magic wand, and it will happen there. And that will help them to generate that data to continue the business in the international market, particularly in a global supply chain. So the data, like Sohail Sir mentioned, that's one of the key areas. The correlation of it, reduction of the confidence that the data flows, which are coming on a large data set, are 99.99% correct, and there is a minimum human intervention. But human in the loop concept still exists for a lot of decision making, like the group settings which he was talking about, that might be required. But AI helped us to really identify, process, and report that kind of information and bring those correlations out and inform the investor to make their investment decision. So that's one of the biggest benefits which we have seen, particularly in the ESG space, sustainability, climate finance, capital market.
So it's more of a compliance aspect at the same time.
Compliance and the opportunity, because if you can represent that data or present that data, you can attract the green capital, because the green capital requires that kind of information and ability of the organization to track the correlation of the entire ecosystem. Yep. And that's humanly not possible. It's only possible with these kind of systems, as well as with the AI to process and create different scenarios. So there's an access to capital, there's a customer narratives, there's a customer engagement who want to stay in a hotel which is more green, and they would like to substantiate as a green as well.
So we'll come back to you. Actually, I've got another scenario for you regarding Pakistan, but very well said, actually, very comprehensive. So moving on to another panelist. So Atif has been part of mobile financial services, right? So Atif, fintech is really growing in Pakistan, right? So over the year, we've actually seen many players in the market. So, and you've been part of the leadership role within the technology space, within fintech or microfinancing, so to speak, right? Within your current role. So how do you see AI in your particular domain? And you may actually talk about Pakistan specifically. So what's the role of AI do you see in microfinancing, micro-lending?
Before I talk about microfinance and AI's role in microfinance, I think AI is like information security, it cut across all industries, right? And equally. Sohail also talked about the AI and HI aspect of what's going on in the world right now. So AI is heavily dependent on data. So being in microfinance, we have a volume-based business, right? So we, as you know, we serve the bottom of the pyramid of the society, right? And that's volume-based. If data is not properly cleansed or properly segregated, AI will not help us much.
It's garbage in, garbage out.
Yes, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
So as Sohail again pointed out, garbage in, garbage out as well, and he also pointed out that it works with algorithms, right? Predictive algorithms, making decisions on data. If data is not correct, you won't see the benefits of AI.
Sure.
So I don't think microfinance industry, or I mean, I'm talking about Pakistan. If you ask me,
Yeah.
actually we are going backwards, not forward in Pakistan. So AI is much ahead of us. First, we need to catch up with the internet first. So if internet is working, then we'll talk about something else. Right now, AI is too far ahead for us to talk about. I'm sorry, but this is how it is. Yeah, but so data is important, and AI is a facilitator, so to speak. Okay, so I individually use AI, but if I talk about using AI in the bank, of course, banking is a heavily regulated industry all over the world, in Pakistan as well. So State Bank is extremely vigilant, and it keeps on looking at whatever we do. Even the cloud policy got renewed last year.
The government policy.
Earlier it was very, restrained, I would say.
Very stringent criteria.
Yeah, very stringent. Now they have opened up a bit, but still we're going towards cloud. So we are going there. So what I think my viewpoint would be, we should prepare for AI, both individually and as well as an organization, right? And by preparing, I mean in the mindset, first and foremost, then data. We have to prepare data. We have a huge amount of data at Khoshali Bank, for instance. This is the first and the largest microfinance bank in Pakistan. So we established in 2000, right? So we have data from 2000 till 20, it's a 24-year data of bottom of the pyramid of Pakistan, rural and semi-rural urban areas. So it's a gold mine, but how do you mine that gold? That's another area, right? We recently implemented Vertica and IBM Cognos. So that was part of being prepared to go towards AI. On the banking side, banking operations side, we implemented Temenos T24, right? And we implemented the financial crime mitigation software along with the T24 application. It's highly embedded with the actual banking operation. So if somebody comes in at a teller and it's a pro-Stripe person, it gets alert. So this is just being prepared for the next revolution. AI will now help us further as a facilitator. It will now predict as well. So predictive analysis is another thing that AI would tell us. Automation is just basic AI. So we've been using automation, but we don't call it AI. So if you ask me whether Khoshali Bank is using AI or not, I would say no. But if you say, are we preparing for AI, or are we working on stages just before implementing AI? Yes, we are. Because we have automated a few things. We have implemented IBM Cognos, which itself uses a lot of algorithms, so it's all facilitation, right? So overall, just like in any other industry, AI is a facilitator, as I would say.
It's an enabler, yeah.
It's an enabler, yeah.
So our last panelist, actually, Harun. So Harun is part of a very different kind of league altogether. You're actually part of a large-scale enterprise, right? So you deal with different clients altogether, a different kind of breed, so to speak, right? So how do you see your kind of client portfolio? How can they leverage AI in a Pakistani scenario in specific?
Thank you very much. It's a very interesting question, and before going into its answer, I would also like to spend a couple of minutes on the evolution of the AI as well, and I'll try to connect it with your question that the customers and the evolving needs, and how the business can utilize the AI tools to address those needs. When I was asked to speak on the subject, I started to think over it, and it took me back a few decades, back into the 80s and 90s, when this AI concept started to capture the imagination of people. Movies coming out, showing, depicting the future where the applications, systems, computers, machines, they are very sensitive to the surroundings, taking all the information, processing all the data, and making very intelligent decisions. Fast forward to today, that very imagination is gradually coming to a reality. Now the businesses today have two options: whether they keep ignoring it, or they, they accept it, embrace it, and use this AI to their own competitive advantage. Now, coming to your question, that the customers, their needs, their evolving needs, and how the businesses can cope up with them. First, we need to break it down. Well, what are those needs? What are those evolving needs? Today's customer needs personalized, customized products and services as per their preferences, as per their likings. They want instant gratification. They don't want to wait in queues and lines. They want omni-channel experience, etc., etc. So how can our clients and businesses, they are addressing these needs? First and foremost, the personalization ones. The businesses are using the AI tools to understand their customer, their purchase behavior, their consumer behavior, their history, their browsing history. They understand what they like to see, what they don't like to see, which enables the business to position the product and services what they want and when they want it. The second very important thing is they want speed, they want convenience. So, what the AI, the businesses are doing is they're doing intelligent automation. They're automating the mundane tasks like order capturing, customer queries. They are being automated. It speeds up the processes, and it leaves the human resource to deal with the complex issues, which are addressing to the more customer complex needs. Other than that, it also helps you in smart supply chains as well. It helps you focus on the fluctuating demands. What is in vogue? What is in demand? What the businesses need to focus nowadays? What sort of inventories they need to replenish? What areas? What are the excess inventories that they need to get rid of? It helps them enhance their efficiencies, get rid of avoidable costs, and focus what is required. And last but not the least, the customer wants to be serviced every time, whenever they want. For that, there are AI chatbots, there are AI virtual assistants. They work 24/7, and whatever the queries that come, frequently asked questions. So they are the first line of the assistance for the customers. And the human resources, they can be, can do the other complex tasks. They're showed in the SAP as well, the AI, the chatbot, they also use. So it's been here for quite some time now. So to summarize, the customer needs, they'll continue to evolve. And the businesses nowadays, in order to have that competitive edge amongst the rest, they need to embrace it, they need to accept it, and they need to use these tools to address all these evolving requirements every day. So,
very well said. They need to embrace it. That's the kind of important thing. So coming back to Zishan, I think, Zishan, there's a notion actually regarding AI that, we did talk about it also, that over time with AI, with the advent of AI, a lot of roles will actually diminish, right? A lot of right sizing might happen. People have this kind of, a lot of apprehensions, right, all around. Roles might cease to exist, right? Khatam ho jayenge altogether. So, do you agree with this notion, first of all? And secondly, how do you see the role of kind of the finance team with the introduction of AI within the organizations? How will that evolve?
Yes, then. That's general perception, and that's the topic we have brought out from time and again, actually. I remember I was reading somewhere, there was an Australian journalist, and I remember the whole narration of the picture that he portrayed, actually. His point of view was that we are living in an interesting era, which is a mix of technology, and he used the term techno-panic. And the reason why then he explained that why he used that, that at what time we are very enthusiastic about what's happening in the world. On the other side, we are quite in the fearful stage.
Skeptical.
Yeah, exactly. What's going to happen? Exactly. So he somehow linked it with the fourth industrial revolution, which is to be brought from a technology perspective. I believe that's there. That is going to happen. But coming to your specific point, if you talk about what are going to be the outcome and what roles to be done away with, something like that, I remember reading McKinsey's report. They quoted that something by 2065, they believe that 5% of the occupations are totally automated. And by total automation, they are saying 50% of that particular occupation is going to be automated. Okay? So 95% of the remains would remain there. So the fear factor and all those going to happen, but half of the century down the road, this is going to be like this. We need to understand that. From the organizational perspective, from the professional's perspective, we need to understand that, as my other colleagues just highlighted, that the organizations would transform, the departments would transform in a manner. They might be what you call it enablers of the technology, who do have that particular skill set of the technology implementing. There would be another team who might be responsible for, I call them data analytics team, who would be responsible for analyzing what's happening in the world and advising the management that the road they should be adopting. And ultimately the users, those professionals, the users of the technology, they would still remain there. The question is whether they have upscaled themselves to the level.
Stay relevant.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I would like to quote that when we started our career, there were manual ledgers, then the calculator, 486, all that stuff. We saw that transformation, the mobiles coming in. So, but the people who somehow did not upscale themselves, they were left behind. You rightly said, we need to embrace what's happening instead of asking that this is not required and we might lose jobs. So I believe this is happening, we need to embrace it.
It will happen, but I think we need to stay relevant is the key actually for everybody. So moving on back to related to your earlier question also, so because you have been part of many researches and you've really worked on ground with many companies and all that. So what would be practical steps in your view if you were to kind of champion AI, if some company had to actually embrace AI? What would be the practical steps would you guide them?
So I would say, like in anything that you want to do, begin with the end in mind. Instead of saying like tomorrow I'll start doing this, which will result in something, I would say start with big way with the end in mind, line out what kind of objectives you want to achieve out of the implementation, and what are the resources obviously that you have. Maybe initially you can start with some mundane tasks, like say for example, we automized call center, now we don't need a call center, we have a WhatsApp bot, and then we have a call bot that can automatically answer stuff, and we don't need any call center operators, etc., etc. We don't need 100 call center operators, we just have 1-2 that are going to sort of answer to the queries. And then sort of align a pathway. In the first pathway, we used to use AI for just mapping out the hotspots. Then, and we used to do it actually, we used to add all the data back and forth into it and then optimize certain functions. Then we came to a chance where the predictive analysis, the charts, every single thing was being done automatically by the AI, by the algorithm. We just need to keep updating the data, whatever. We went to so-and-so location, so-and-so what the numbers and everything. So map out the key, roadblocks that are there. what do we want to do about it, and then sustainable, sort of in a strategic step-by-step manner, you can automate one function, have AI enabled in it, automate the second function, so on and so forth. And obviously, as I said earlier, experimentation is going to be the key. You may not hit it 100% right the first time. However, you can sort of just hit and trial and go about it. When you were seeing the presentation about what particular functionalities are there in the Joule that we are, the reason that we are all here today, there were operations where they showed everything done from the research on what products are prevailing in the market up to actually buying, sourcing them for a supplier, and then sort of selling it to customers. So there is a pathway across literally every single thing. And one thing that came to my mind once I was listening to that was, like, even if we don't get AI for all the modules, I can get a module maybe for myself where I can see, okay, fine, what the revenues were, what are the cost heads that are lying behind, and how can I actually sort of use this for the business efficiency that I am in. So it's the sky is the limit for with AI, but I would just say holding yourself back, saying that, oh my God, tomorrow we're going to become obsolete. Rather, we need to embrace it to move forward, and we need to prepare ourselves. Like for us, we have a research team that is actually optimizing the interventions from now, so that the moment we have an AI solution, we can actually be ahead of the time, rather than waiting for a solution to come tomorrow and we are not able to catch it. So we are like, if you plan today, you're going to be trying to sort of making the things happen tomorrow.
It's a mindset, actually, as you said, very rightly. Yeah. So moving on, Sajid, earlier we talked about a very particular area of ESG, right? So, and it's more of a generic and in a very global perspective. So let's switch gears, and I would like to have your perspective, because you worked in very diverse kind of industries. So in Pakistani context, right? So what sort of kind of challenges that you see for adoption of AI for a companies in Pakistan? And you can actually just pick your industry, or you can just generally talk about it.
Thank you. I think I'll take something which Zishan and Mehul was also picking up from an adoption perspective, that how the adoption happens. Yeah. And I'll use a one sentence if it's planned well, and I'll try to bring it in what the corporate structure is. जब आप अपने अंदर के तवक्कल के शेर को मार देते हैं ना, तो आपके खौफ के कुत्ते आपको खा पी जाते हैं. And that's the human behavior. When you don't have confidence that you can evolve, you can learn, and you can stay ahead, so you try to push everything aside. आप उसको avoid करना शुरू करते हैं और denial mode में चले जाते हैं. And that's a human nature. And we have seen that in the history of it. Yeah, पत्थर से जब तांबे का औजार बनने शुरू हुए और व्हील बना और इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन आया, every time that's a very standard question: what's going to happen to me? And why we have that? That's one of a dilemma of a human being and the societies like us, जहाँ पे हम हमेशा किसी दूसरे बंदे की तरफ देख रहे होते हैं कि उसने आके मुझे इस मसले से निकाला. The nations which have changed that way, Indonesia is a very great example in the last 20 years, how they have changed that dilemma कि हमें किसी ने बाहर निकालना है, and they said, I am responsible for my financial and my well-being, I'll make effort for myself, and then collectively जब 270 million people adopted that mindset, so now you can see the Indonesia where it's at. 20 साल पहले, 22 साल पहले, they were exactly where we are today and where we were at that time. So हमारी को हालात change नहीं. So adoption जो है, that's a behavioral, and that's a slow process. It will start with the 2.5% people who are the early adopter, and they will influence another 20-25%. Yeah, it's a curve. Yeah, it will come to that curve. So we have to literally identify those 2.5% organizations, those 2.5% bold people, जिनका अंदर का तवक्कल अभी जाग रहा है, उनका शेयर जो है वो वहाँ पे है, and they adopt it. So challenge will be finding those bold people, and then second part, really bringing it out in the market that how they have done it. So the second part comes as a collaboration, as a sharing, how they will share their experience and enable others to start that adoption cycle. So whether we talk about FMCG, whether we talk about banking, whether we talk about ESG, audit, finance, or anything, the basic philosophy remains the same. How you really appreciate those 2.5% people who were bold enough and they started. And then how those 2.5% people are willing to collaborate and handhold others to bring them up, rather than tell them कि मैंने कर लिया, किसी और को मैंने करने नहीं देना. Right? So it comes to the mindset. But opportunity is great. So I wouldn't say there's a challenge. I would say human will evolve, organizations will evolve. And मैं तो ये कहता हूँ कि AI जो है आपको वापस लेके जा रही है मुगल बादशाहों के टाइम पे कि आप बैठे हुए हैं, AI आपको पैसा कमा के दे रही है. Right? So why I should be worried? I should deploy that. मुझे end of the day what human being want? They want to do the painting, वो जाके कहीं पे कोई वो मुजस्मा बनाना चाहेंगे. They want to be creative. Right? So if AI is bringing that thing back, why I should avoid it? I should love it and I should embrace it and bring more people in that. So it's all the perspective how you look at that. But it's definitely going to help a lot of countries like us to fast track our progress if we do it right and do it collaboratively.
We need to find kind of early adopters and champions, so to speak, right? So building on to this point of being a champion or a change agent, so to speak. So Atif, I would like to actually have your perspective. So if you were to champion a program for AI, the introduction of AI in organization, and you're part of the technology team, right? So there's certain kind of KPIs have to be in place. There's certain ROI the company is going to ask you because there's a capacity building involved, there's an investment happening from the company's front, right? So what sort of KPIs, in your opinion, should be in place to measure the success of that organization? And how would you really kind of go about it?
KPIs, if I can talk about the implementation aspect of it. So I've been through a few implementations in my life of about 30 years of professional life. The last one was on, as I said, IBM Cognos and Vertica, data warehouse and analytics, right? And I carry that example for you because that required effort from everyone. It was not just the project team or myself or the people who are implementing or the implementers, I would say, but the whole bank. Because this was being done for the benefit of the bank and the people, collaborative, right? So, जैसे किन्जो ने बात की कि आपके डिफरेंट तरीके होते हैं इम्प्लीमेंट करने के. मेरे हिसाब से जो सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज होता है ना, that's the mindset, right? और सुहेल ने भी बात की थी कि ह्यूमन इंटेलिजेंस में क्या डिफरेंशिएशन है एज कम्पेयर टू आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस. एक चीज जो भी चेंज होती है ना, वी रेजिस्ट चेंज ऑफ एनी सॉर्ट, राइट? सो हमारा तरीका ये हुआ इम्प्लीमेंटिंग IBM Cognos कि हमने चैंपियंस, हम खुद चैंपियन नहीं बने, ओके? वी क्रिएटेड चैंपियंस फ्रॉम डिफरेंट यूनिट्स इन द बैंक,
Cross function.
right? We asked them that this is the benefit you would get after implementing this, and starting with individual benefit. This is the benefit. If you do this, you will enrich your resume, because right now you're working on Excel analytics, on Excel number crunching. Tomorrow you'll have IBM Cognos interface, and that will be a stamp in your resume, a certification कि यार मैंने IBM Cognos में काम किया हुआ है और मैं अब एक्सेल वाला नहीं बन रहा हूँ, मैं IBM का Cognos का बन रहा हूँ. So starting with individual, then group wise, including their chiefs, कि यार उनको क्या benefit मिलेगा. So for example, one of the benefits before IBM Cognos and Excel was there and IBM Cognos was not there, but it used to take about 5 days for them to number crunch everything and give out the analytics of how business is doing. I'm talking about the chief business officer, okay? So IBM Cognos, decreased that time. So they could do it within the hour after, all number crunching and the presentation, everything, right? So coming back to the KPIs. KPIs can be, are actually intangible as well as tangible. Tangible में तो ये है कि आप जब implement करेंगे AI, this, of course there will be cost included, right? कॉस्ट के तो आप छोड़ नहीं सकते कि कुछ भी आप इंप्लीमेंट करते हैं तो कॉस्ट इंक्लूड हो, चाहे कम हो या ज़्यादा, राइट? एट द सेम टाइम अब आप उससे क्या हासिल करना चाहें. सो टेंजिबल बेनिफिट्स कुड बी इंक्रीज इन रेवेन्यू, You could get more products, more variety in products of existing products. I'm talking about from a banking perspective. Services change आप कर सकते हैं, वो हो सकती हैं. And at the same time you could reduce cost. आपके expenses sector. For instance, पिछले 2 साल से कोशारी bank is focusing on optimization and consolidation of its infrastructure, I would say. So the only purpose is to reduce the expenses, the operating expenditure, which is the directly hits the bottom line, right? So tangible benefits तो ये हैं. Intangible benefits ये है कि अगर आपने maintain task जैसे इन्होंने बोला आपने automate कर लिए, it increases employee morale, right? आपके जो लोग जो आप रोज सुबह से आते हैं उन फॉर इंस्टेंस बैंक में क्या होता है, एक सेंट्रल प्रोसेसिंग यूनिट होता है, बहुत सारी चीज़ें फील्ड में होती हैं. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट माइक्रो फाइनेंस बैंक, राइट? वो कमर्शियल बैंक में भी कुछ कुछ होता है कि वो सारा डेटा, इनिशियल डेटा कस्टमर का इन द फील्ड और इन द ब्रांचेस पढ़ते हैं, एंड देन एवरीथिंग कम्स टू अ सेंट्रल प्रोसेसिंग यूनिट. आपके पास नंबर डेटा एंट्री हो रही होती है, पता नहीं क्या हो रहा होता है, राइट? दैट कुड बी ऑटोमेटेड. और हमने किया है कुछ चीज़ें ऑटोमेट करके, फिर हमने उन लोगों को अपलिफ्ट करके इनटू बेटर रोल्स दे दिए, जैसे आपने बात की, राइट? सो utilize human intelligence for a different purpose and use artificial intelligence for different purpose. And I always said these are all collaborators, just like Khurram is Sohail's brother. Sohail जैसे point किया उन्होंने, it has to be collaboration, not competition. और वो जो बात है ना कि ह्यूमन बीइंग ऑब्सोलीट हो जाएंगे, जैसे इन्होंने बात की, हमारा एक अलग, अल्लाह ताला ने हमें एक डिफरेंट तरीके की चीज़ बनाया. हम we can never be creators, okay? We have a belief in this. We can never be creators. So artificial intelligence भी एक creation, एक और चीज़ बना रही है. We are a creation. तो अल्लाह ताला ने जैसे हमें बनाया है, हमारी imperfectness में भी perfectness है. ये नहीं है कि हम imperfect हैं और artificial intelligence आपने बहुत सारी movies देखी होंगी ना, at the end कौन जीता है, इंसान ही जीत रहा होता है. वो है तो movies, लेकिन actually there's a message ना.
We creating a parallel, right? So parallel intelligent.
हाँ, तो हमारी creativity, हमारे emotion हैं वो. So अभी जैसे एलॉन मस्क और बाकी सब लोग कहते हैं कि जब artificial general intelligence जब आ जाएगी ना, फिर जरा खतरनाक बात है कि जब वो इस तरह से भी सोच. अभी हम we are not there yet. We should be prepared. But पाकिस्तान में भी अगेन एक चीज जो हमने क्लाउड पॉलिसी की मैंने बात की थी, वो भी बहुत देर में आई है. There should be artificial intelligence related policy making and frameworks being generated by the banks, ताकि वो भी आपके पास आ जाए, क्योंकि ethics of artificial एक बहुत अलग ही एरिया है. So that's
before we
my
wrap up, one last question actually to you. So we talked about it when you were sitting there. So we talked about Industry 4.0 or Industrial IoT. So how do you see the convergence of IoT and 4.0? Is there any kind of, can you draw parallels or any commonality?
Okay, so integration between the Industry 4.0 and AI. Well, I would say it's the recipe for being a champion, because the benefits that you can draw out from this synergy between the Industry 4.0 and AI, you can reap benefits in almost every business function. Be it the production, be it the supply chain, quality assurance, even cyber security, analytics, maintenance, so on and so forth. But just to help you illustrate the benefits, I'll try to give maximum examples with these, what sort of benefits that you can get.
Maybe one or two top examples
Yeah.
that come to your mind.
So, first one I would say the P&G, they use data-driven analytics. They process tons of data from their production and from their maintenance, from market, and they understand the consumer behavior, and and that's why they optimize the supply chains, their productions, so that they can enhance the profits and efficiencies across all their business functions. The best example I would say is the Adidas. They use mass customizations and personalizations based on the customer feedbacks that they get. They use Industry 4.0 and AI in their speed factories, and they adjust their production lines to give out these personalized footwear for the clients. And it's not very easy to implement, I would say. But obviously, in order to become the industry leader and the market leader, so I would say these are the recipe to become a champion.
Thank you very much. In the interest of time, I think we need to just wrap up.
I'm
Thank you
so
very much.
sorry. जैसे वक्त सख्त होता जाता है, I get closer to the stage, right? And I'm glad you were able to understand. Though the conversation was going really well, but then I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't, enforce that. I'm going to ask the panelists to stay here, and I'd like to be joined on stage by Sajjad Saab, the chairman of VXT, and Amir Shah Saab to give out the mementos. So can I please have both the gentlemen on stage? Amir Shah Saab. Is he here? Do we have him here? Oh, he's just now we have to step out. Okay. Well then, Sajjad Saab, you can recruit anyone of your liking or choosing. Or there you go. Now, in the order that I called you up on stage, we'll be doing the mementos, which means that I'll be starting with our moderator for this session. First memento goes out to Sheikh Taimur Nawaz Sahab. आप वहाँ से आएंगी? हाँ. There you go. All right. Next one goes to Zishan Ejasa, our first panelist. Aye. There we go. Our lost memento giver is back. Okay. Our next memento goes to our panelist, Ms. Kinzul Iman. Saji. I'm such a nice now. Talia Islamabad, it just got really quiet, I realized. Even I'm here in my La La Land thinking what lovely, Ronak stage we have. Okay, and Mr. Atif Aziz Ahmed. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Harun Khan. Is that it? Is that the last one? Got that? Okay. A quick group photograph, if everybody could just sort of come together. So, आइए, हाँ, एक group picture हम ले लेते हैं panelists और हमारे team के साथ. Very, very, very quickly, बस 5 seconds. Oh. Yes, I'm always up for gender balance and diversity. बहुत शुक्रिया, 5 seconds हो गए. Thank you so much to the panelists and of course our memento givers. I'm just going to call them that now. What to do? Okay, we've eaten up into the next panel time. I'm probably going to get fired, but it is what it is, right? Very quickly, I'd like to invite to the stage our next fireside chat participants. The subject being how to leverage AI for a competitive advantage in Pakistan. From what I see, I mean, if we don't collaborate, if we don't get on the boat, we're going to drown, right? So it's like we're left with no option. Be relevant or be gone, wali baat hai. So I'd like to invite to the stage the moderator, Mr. Osman Nasif, who's a technology strategist. Wow. With extensive experience in leading product development, market research, and global sales operations. Osman has successfully expanded business operations into New Zealand, Indonesia, Pakistan, and Singapore. I should have just said half the world, but anyway. And is managing director of the Pakistan Software Export Board, which is the PSEB, until August 2022. He spearheaded the National IT Export Enhancement Framework, which resulted in 80% growth in IT exports and a phenomenal 145% IT companies from smaller towns. He's also the founder of Tech Destination Pakistan, which is a comprehensive branding and international engagement initiative. That's a lot to be talking about today. Can I please have Mr. Usman Nasir on stage? I could have gone on for a while, as you're very aware, but I'm just going to... Oh, you want this? Oh, you want to remove the podium? Sure, then I will stand here and I'll do the podium less for a while. All right, next, can I please have on stage our panelist, Ms. Sumaira Abbasi, who brings extensive experience in senior management and a strong background in leading organizations and projects to achieve impactful results. Ms. Sumaira is the recipient of the Australia Awards Development Scholarship, and she has a Master of Leadership from Australian National University with a focus on digital entrepreneurship and innovation. Sumaira Saiba, can I please have you on stage? Alright, Pam is also, by the way, she is in charge of the economic, of a platform called We Create, which hopefully we'll be hearing a lot more about in the time to come. And now I think I'm just going to invite the panelists on stage by name because I don't want to eat up into your time. I've already cut 5 minutes out of it, Usman. So can I please have Mr. Yasir Ansari on stage with over 3 decades of IT management under his belt, multiple executive roles across banking, telecommunications and manufacturing industries in Pakistan. Yes, I'm glad that Yasir Saab has some friends in the audience. Baghair mange taliyan, that's a big deal, I think, from what I've seen here in Islamabad, right? Wah, jo bhi hai, I like it, enjoy it, sir. And of course, so well deserved because this just goes on and on. An award-winning IT leader, sir has also received the NCR National IT Excellence Award for his expertise in designing, commissioning and implementing cost-effective high-performance, best words ever, Anna. Cost-effective bhi ho, high-performance bhi ho, fantastic. IT infrastructures and applications. So obviously a very valuable addition to our panel. सर आपने कोई जगह नहीं छोड़ी, BTCL से लेके नांद्रा से लेके भारत टेलीकॉम से लेके पंजाब इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी बोर्ड से लेके नेशनल बैंक ऑफ पाकिस्तान, इस्लामिक बैंक, MCB, UBank, and also took it to corporations such as IBM, Nortel, British American Tobacco, etc., etc., etc. इसलिए the तालियां without me even having to ask. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Shakil Ahmed. Sir, can I please have you on stage? Aye. A seasoned technology leader with over 28 years of experience in the IT industry, and the career spans not just multiple countries, but multiple continents, where he has successfully driven digital transformation initiatives from medium to large-scale organizations. Sir is currently the CIO at Utility Stores Corporation of Pakistan, which is, as we all know, the country's largest grocery retail chain, and it has over 4,000 outlets nationwide. Please correct me if I'm wrong anywhere, sir. So he led the Utility Stores Corporation through a major digital transformation, which shifted everything from manual to digital operations. And this has been recorded as the largest digital transformation in the country's public sector. Big round of applause. 3 more. Oh, you're just enjoying this, aren't you? I'm just like, he's just like, yeah, I'll race through it. All right, our next panelist, Mr. Asif Aziz, who is a key figure in the telecommunications industry with over 29 years of experience across Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. So he's currently the President of Enterprise Solutions at Jazz, which is Pakistan's leading telecom operator with over 70 million subscribers, myself being one of them. Notable achievements during the tenure include the successful rebranding of Mobilink to Jazz, and then the integration of Varid Telecom into the Jazz brand. So this has been amazing, an instrumental journey in advancing the digital adoption in Pakistan, focusing on increasing smartphone and broadband penetration. Multilingual, multiversed, and an avid globetrotter, I'm sure that this should be an exciting conversation with this edition. Next up, we have Mr. Taimur Malik from the SAP family, with over 15 years of experience in ERP systems, which is what Sohail Saab was saying we should be talking about anyway, right? He's led technology-based public finance interventions in numerous countries across the Middle East and Asia. Been with SAP since 2018, and he now leads business development and strategic initiatives, primarily focusing on Pakistan and Afghanistan. And last but certainly not least, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Usman Khan, who helps just the forward-looking ones, not the other ones. I think this is a little discriminative. I only help the forward-looking organizations, but he helps them into adopting cutting-edge technologies to differentiate themselves and accelerate growth. And I think that that's what it's all about, this conversation, about, how to help yourselves be different from the others. So has been a part of top organizations and financial services, telecom public sector, and is currently working as senior account executive with SAP, managing mid-market accounts across Pakistan, Afghanistan, the Gulf region, and Iraq. Thank you so much. With that, I'm just going to go get myself a pair of new lungs. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are the last people standing between them and lunch. We gotta make it worth their while.
Absolutely.
So, today I have a very good panel and a very extensive panel. So, where I would start from you. Yeah.
I don't think that is working.
Well, I think Please, you want to start? So, where I'm going to start from you, a few things that we have realized, AI's transformational role in solving the issues that we previously thought are too hard to give a crack at. What do you think the role it can play for the entrepreneurs, especially the ones who are looking to have a go at the SME sort of issues for this country? Where do you see the use of AI and the implementation of AI in that particular scenario?
Thank you so much, Usman. So even I was listening to the previous panel, and I think the panelists have done a great job in sort of, helping us understand how AI is transforming the way we do business. That was largely in the context of bigger organizations with, extensive resources, both human and otherwise, it's easier for them to sort of the challenge I think is greater when we talk about startups and small businesses. So what's the biggest challenge when startups start? It's resources, right? Especially resources that they have to pay for. In Pakistan's context as well, in my work I've experienced a lot of startups are really solopreneurs. एक founder होता है और साथ एक दो साथ कोई मिल जाए, पार्ट टाइम रोल्स होते हैं, लेकिन फुल टाइम पेड एंड दे डोंट हैव द bootstrapping, going around looking for their first check that will give them a start, pre-seed or seed. So AI has really changed the starting point essentially for them, because if they have access to AI, that means that a lot of operational tasks can then be done using AI, such as, for instance, light content writing, a bit of marketing. So these are tasks that then they can they don't have to factor into the limited money that they have. Then it's also about developing their products and services, right? So instead of, unless of course the most important thing for a startup again for them to really make a product and service that is solving a problem or is addressing a need is to understand and do that market research. Again, resource intensive task. So AI, we learned in the previous panel as well, has this immense capability to carry out a decent market research, just with the help of customizing and understanding what the user behaviors are, what their consumer preferences are, and then thirdly, of course, data. So we know that data drives and will continue to drive our competitive edge, and making those data-based decisions, whether it's relating to how you do things at work, what kind of product you want to make, who you want to sell to, it's all about good data driving your decision making. So again, AI can help do that, again with meager resources. So I think the first fact, the game changer for them is the ability for AI to help them manage those initial few stages with very little financial resources. And then, of course, when we also look at, when they're looking to scale, again, all of these can then be stepped up, and for them to map out their journey of growth and scale. AI will continue to really facilitate and change the way they do things. And when we look at SMEs, we focus a lot on startups, but we need to understand that SMEs really are the backbone of the economic engine in a country. And in Pakistan, we're talking about we're not just talking about urban centers. We're talking about tier 2 and tier 3 cities where if they're trying to develop products.
42% of
yes.
GDP and roughly 69% of your all non-agriculture employment
Comes from.
That's how big SME is.
Exactly. And so let's think about where these SMEs are. They're not necessarily in your big urban tech centers. So when they want to develop, and they want to grow, they don't have access to good tech talent. That's where AI comes in, and it changes the game for them. So I think AI essentially is and will continue to really be a game changer for startups and SMEs in Pakistan and all over the world, of course.
Thank you so much. We're going to mix it up a bit. We're going to mix it up a bit. Asif, I'll come to you now because I've seen you in action with your data and the love for data that you have. Now, you are slightly differently placed than any one of us, given that your organization serves anybody and everybody in this country. I think tens of thousands of corporates are being served by you. If we just look at the corporate clientele and we just ignore the sheer number of hundreds of millions of people that you actually do serve. But when you look at your corporate clients and when you look at their usage pattern, when you look at, and I feel that your mind will be buzzing every time you hear about a new business or a new business idea in one of your clients, and you must be rearing to actually implement AI use case for helping them. How does this happen? Can you take us to this situation where you have seen a certain business and you said, I can make it better with data and AI?
Thank you very much. Bismillah, honored of you. Wonderful event, and I loved Sohail's introduction about what is AI and how does AI really add value? What does it mean to be intelligent? And what does it mean to be human? So that now is bringing these things together. The whole sci-fi world is blurry. But I just want to put a caution. The caution is, I've been here long enough to know that there have been multiple hypes. 3D printing was going to change my life. Big data was going to change my life. So these things were going to change. So now, the industry needs something to grab onto, and we grabbed onto this thing called artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is predicated on a critical bearer product. The bearer product is data. And I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of data already through the abundance of SIMs and the usage that takes place. I get a lot of insight, a lot of knowledge.
We are using that knowledge now to help our customers. But it's not the AI that's helping the customers. It's actually my human intelligence that's using that data to be able to deliver meaningful insights. Well, I'll give one example. A customer of mine came to me and said, this is a tea-loving country. How can I get them to buy more coffee? Lovely. So we used all our data, all our analytics, all our data scientists, and we showed them specifically where they could grow their coffee business. That's one example. Second example is financial institutions come to me and ask for guidance as to where they should locate their next ATM machine or their branch. And what my guys are doing is not really knowing the details of the business, but leveraging, and I really mean hundreds of different data points to be able to come up with a unique insight. And then what we do is we automate it. And somebody called it artificial intelligence. But actually all we've done is automated something so that the human can come up with an even bigger problem that needs to be solved. So we are working with our customers and businesses at the moment in exactly this way. The questions people ask me are brilliant. Where should I advertise? How do I know that billboard was of any value to me? Should I put an advert on Instagram? What value would it add? The value isn't in that insight. The value is us overseas looked at a particular brand's webpage this morning, Instagram page, and now happens to be within 50 meters of your branch. Is that of any use to you? So then how do this is time bound, so I've got literally 90 seconds to be able to answer that question for the customer. And we automate it, and we provide these automated solutions to all our customers. So we're leveraging the intelligence that we are generating, but the human involvement is significant, and it's not to be underestimated. I have scores of data scientists behind who all they do is take a product and then automate it in order to scale it up.
Thank you. Thank you. Temur, I'll come to you. One of the major issues that we have seen is the underutilization of PSDP. 60% every year. So whatever has been allocated to PSDP, 60% goes to waste. That gets actually, not to waste, actually we have to resubmit that amount to the government on the 30th of May. Now I see, and this is happening over and over across multiple years. This is the practice because things don't work out the way they're supposed to work out, right? On field deployment, and things change. Now, what do you think? I mean, the use case I see as a very immediate use case of data analytics and AI right then and there to look at the pattern of consumption, look at the pattern of budget allocation, budget utilization, and then go and predict actually that this organization and this particular project would not be able to utilize most of the budget. And rather, we are redirecting that 60% amount at the end of the year at around 30th of May. We should be able to do this around September or November so this can get utilized elsewhere where it is mostly used. You can give us some more examples from your public sector interactions where and how do you feel that AI can transform public sector?
Absolutely, Sponsor. That's a very important question. I think, frankly, you're being a bit generous when you say that it's only about 60% of the PSDP that's wasted. I would argue the impact that we expect of the PSDP is hardly even 60%. You touched on a couple of very important things. When it comes to, for example, the way that governments apportion funds, how they spend them over the course of a budgetary year. Unfortunately, right now, perhaps due to the lack of credible data, we essentially indulge in what we could call cash rationing as opposed to cash forecasting. So, it's not until the last cycle, the last quarterly cycle of government budgeting that we really understand what, issues have been there with utilization in the past. Specifically with AI, what what I see, the way I see it being used to improve development outcomes when it comes to, for example, PSDB projects, is to find perhaps non-conventional linkages between budgetary inputs and outcomes. So to give you an example, Pakistan is a very brick and mortar loving development paradigm, right? We love throwing new buildings at things, whereas there's been a lot of research in African countries, for example. The World Bank has found that instead of building more schools and perhaps counterintuitively, instead of greater teacher training, sometimes things that work for better educational outcomes can include things like greener spaces, better hygiene facilities, better toilets in developing countries. So these are things that aren't necessarily immediately apparent until you begin to parse the data and see the linkages that exist. Now, again, the use cases for better budget credibility, for better budgetary allocation are endless, right? But I'm very happy to see that a number of panelists today, both in the previous session and this one as well, have mentioned the issue with the hype around AI, right? And it's important, yes, it's important to understand and leverage these technologies, but it's also important, as I think Atif Saab said in the previous session, to be prepared for AI. Right, we need to adopt a mindset where data comes at the center of decision making, and before we can really leverage AI in the public sector, especially in a place like Pakistan, quite frankly, we need to understand and parse through the data and see what it is that we can do, and actually make a commitment to using that data. Again, a lot of my colleagues are aware. Just the other day, I was up in the northern areas, and without any warning per se. A massive glacier burst on K2, right? And there are so many inputs that I'm sure could foreshadow such climate catastrophes that we aren't necessarily using, and AI would allow us to kind of parse through and leverage. Again, it's also important, I think, for government to regulate AI, right? It's unfortunately, perhaps, one of the more pressing use cases that we've seen around AI, especially in less democratic governments, is with respect to surveillance. And it's important, also for us to look at both the benefits of AI, but also understand where it can be misused, and perhaps have some more regulation around that. Absolutely.
So I'll come to you, Yasser. Yasser, you have an advantage over a lot of us that you have those strong over and over years, and you have seen multiple phases of them in multiple industries. How do you think that when we talk in terms of enterprise technologies, how do you think AI can actually transform enterprise technologies? We have spoken about it, but your perspective is important because you can give us perspective from the point of view of data transformation, AI, cybersecurity, all of those domains that you have seen in your career.
Thank you. I must commend both of my previous colleagues who actually, this was the first question I also came into mind. I think I'm in this panel, I'm the oldest person, and there's a lot of hype what is AI and what it's not. So, and there's a lot of hype that what we see, Usman. Way back when I was doing computer science in 1983, we already had a cloud. I mean, infrastructure as a service, cloud as a service was available, but did not have the saying, as we call it right now. IBM used to offer data as a service, where some companies can go in and borrow time for 2 hours of processing, but it was not known as at that time. So, as both of them said, what is AI? We need to really, unless and until there is a model or an NLP behind that processing, I think this blur will continue. I have been fortunate enough to go through 3 major transformations. And it's a bittersweet experience. I was in the core team that created Nadra. So that was perhaps the most learning and most, I think, entertaining experience for me was the creation of Nadra and what data, although we did not have the term AI at that time. So, and in a sense, it's very tragic. when I can tell you what AI does and what it doesn't, but unfortunately in Pakistan, we could have made something much more of it. I think there are two companies that truly use AI in Pakistan or data as such, and I'll tell you the limitations of such. What went wrong? I think the basic premise is that we are not a data-driven society. आज अगर आप भी पूछ लीजिए कि FBR में कितने लोग टैक्स देते हैं, हमारे पास ये नहीं पता. I went to China last year. We had a microfinance bank in China that gives you loan on pure data automation in 6 minutes. आप जाके पाकिस्तान के किसी बैंक में लोन के लिए अप्लाई करें, it takes at least a couple of months before a loan is, and that's the best time scenario. So वो चीज़ें हमने की नहीं, हमने उसको ऑर्गेनाइज किया नहीं. हमने आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस के नाम से तो हम कर रहे हैं, लेकिन हमने कोई अथॉरिटी नहीं बनाई. देयर इज नो एथिकल पैराडाइम व्हेन इट कम्स टू कि क्या चीज़ आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस को किन किन पैराडाइम पे हम वो कर सकते हैं, नहीं कर सकते. हाँ, जो आपने सवाल किया आर्किटेक्चर, ऑफ कोर्स वी हैव टू एडहेयर टू द इमर्जिंग टेक्नोलॉजीज, चाहे वो AI हो, ब्लॉकचेन हो, IoT हो, ये सारी चीज़ें हमें इमर्ज करनी है और इनको अडॉप्ट करना है. जब हम ये कहते हैं, देन आई विल अगेन, जो हम लोग डिस्कशन पहले भी करते रहे हैं कि हम लोग क्लाउड पे बात करते हैं. पाकिस्तान स्टेट बैंक स्टिल डज नॉट हैव अ क्लाउड पॉलिसी एज वी स्पीक, जिस पे कोई 2 बैंक्स मुस्तफिक हो जाए. सो देयर नीड्स टू बी अ लॉट ऑफ वर्क. एंटरप्राइज टेक्नोलॉजी की जहाँ बात कर रहे थे कि वी नीड एडेप्टेशन टू ब्लॉकचेन, वी नीड एडेप्टेशन टू लेटेस्ट टेक्नोलॉजी जो भी हैं, वी नीड टू स्टैंडर्डाइज वर्ल्ड वाइड जो प्रैक्टिसेस हैं उन पर स्टैंडर्डाइज करना है. हमें ये देखना है कि जो बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस हैं वो हमारे इम्प्लीमेंट हो रही है, नहीं हो रही हैं, क्या हमारे पास प्राइवेसी के लॉज हैं, क्या हमारे पास ये तमाम स्टैंडर्ड्स मौजूद हैं या नहीं है. अगर नहीं है तो हमें इनको अडेप्ट करना है. सो दिस इज वेयर आई दैट्स माय वैल्यू इन इट.
Thank you, Aswin. So now, your organization is critical in terms of what we have seen about the challenges to the integrity of the data, and I call out Pakistan Bureau of Stats. Probably they have failed over the past 3 decades in giving us any reliable data. But there comes your organization with absolutely your finger on the pulse of the nation, what people are buying, how much are they consuming, where are they consuming, what's being consumed, and what not. So when you see the potential utilization of data sciences, the potential utilization of predictive analytics from your context, from what sort of pulses Khanewal is buying, what sort of meat Lahore is buying, so on and so forth. You can do a lot of analysis on what we should be growing and what we should not be growing and what we should be producing and actually transporting. Can you give us some perspective based on this input?
Yeah, okay. So before talking about the AI, that how the retail business can leverage AI for the competitive advantage. But there are a couple of things which are very important, which needs consideration. Like for this, the 3 layers technology model, where the AI comes at the layer 3, but the important at the bottom of the pyramid is the IT infrastructure, which is quite very important. So for the organization, they must have a good IT infrastructure in place at the first place. The infrastructure, it could be, an in-house infrastructure, it could be on the cloud, but it should be capable enough to hold hand to compute the large amount of data. Then at the second layer comes the domain-specific business applications like SAP, which generates, handholds the big data, which basically is utilized by the AI to help the organizations make informed decisions. So at the second layer is the business application, and then comes the AI. Now, as you said that Utility Store Corporation is the largest retail chain of the country. We almost 200,000 customers in a single day. We are everywhere across the country, from the north to south, running more than 4,000 stores. So we are producing a very large amount of data. We know what are the customer needs and which part of the country, what products should be made available to the customer, so that we can increase the sales and the customer satisfaction as well. So for us, we are somehow using the AI in basically in different areas of the our retail business. For example, for the customer, for the personalized customer experience, what we are doing is basically we are using the AI algorithms to analyze the customer's behaviors, their needs, and based on those needs, we try to make the products available for the right customer at the right time, at the right pace.
So at the moment, just for the interest, at the moment, you will be doing it on a store level.
Yeah.
Prediction based on store level. But if you issue a card, a rewards card, and Asafai, this comes to you, then if you issue a rewards card, let's say with Jazz, and this reward card personalized for individual users, so then you'll be able to get that data for the individual consumer, number one. Number two, you can tie it up with BISP for the users of BISP, that they can be given tokens or rewards or credits for their utilization within your stores. If we just tie it up all together, what do you think? Does it have any legs? Is it going to work out?
So for the BISP, we are already doing this. The government is providing the subsidy to the targeted individuals. So we are serving the BISP beneficiaries already. So they come, we have integrated and linked our system with the BISP. So the BISP customers, they visit utility stores and they are basically verified in the real time if they come on a certain, that the PMT score, which is basically whatever is decided by the government now. Nowadays it is the PMT 40. The PMT 40 is then during the Ramzan it was PMT 60. You just have to scan the CNIC and it goes to the BISP servers, it gets verified, and if it comes under the same, the PMT score, the customer is served with the subsidized rates, otherwise it would be charged with the regular rates.
Thank you. Swan, I'll come to you. So Swan, in your experience, especially with the mid-sized organization as their emerging business model, what do you feel SAP Joule sort of tools can do for them in enhancing their product development, reach to market, finding new clientele, and completely regenerating themselves?
Thank you, Swan. On my way in today, I was incidentally tuned into a podcast from McKinsey, and they were quoting that in the developed markets, close to 75% of enterprises are leveraging AI, generative AI, in their businesses today. Now, this number is double the amount which they polled 12 months back. So what is happening is that, this goes to, ties up to the fact that the average shelf life of a Fortune 500 company has come down from 67 years back in the 2 decades back to less than 15 years. So for the mid-market companies, essentially, there are a number of factors at play which generative AI enables. Firstly is the democratization of AI, of artificial intelligence. We do use these terms, advanced analytics and artificial intelligence, interchangeably, although there is a subtle difference. But you see, what has happened is that if you are we were having a conversation, if you are in a poultry business, and of course, chicken sells like anything in Pakistan and many parts of the world, but that industry has its own nuances. Be it the supply chain, the weather patterns, the raw material, the cost of the supply chain costs that are impacting the entire industry. Or if you are on the other side, you are in a retail eatery business and you just cannot put a handle to the menu prices because every day your input costs are changing, but tomorrow every day you can't change the menu saying today the cheeseburger is costing 500, tomorrow it's 600 because the chicken just costs more. So through by having a robust back-end platform, technology platform, you are as a fast-paced or a fast growth scale company able to do a variety of things which previously were the purview of cash-rich, deep-pocketed companies, financial services, the Jazz, the HBOs of the world. Today, even if you are a 50 to 100 people company, you can actually leveraging the information that you have, do your sales planning, you can actually do your demand forecasting, and do it all in because the miracle of AI, which ChatGPT unveiled in 2022, is the natural language processing. You don't need to know coding, you don't need to know statistics. You can actually ask simple English questions and get answers which are relevant to your business. So I think these two things are phenomenally transformative in nature. And then what is, they say, the talent war is really, the premium to hire the right sort of talent is quite significant. Not all outfits, not all businesses can afford to attract and retain the talent. And of course, in Pakistan, we have our own peculiarities where people just leaving it, truckloads. Through having the investments in technology which are providing the youngsters an ability to try out their or to enrich their profiles, leverage the best of technology, get exposure to the to generative AI, and do it at a scale which is at par with what you are seeing happening in the developed world, is also quite a significant value contribution to the organization. So many things dovetail essentially. One is the democratization. You don't need to have big budgets. Go on the days when previously you were lucky to actually end up selling $1 billion plus assignments for for a large enterprise looking to have, for example, 10 years ago there was a big rave of doing churn prediction models, and you would go and say, okay, fine, I have this customer data, can you make sense of this? How will this look like in the future? And you will pay somebody $1 million and then wait for the results 6 months down the road. With generative AI now, with the tools technology available, all of this can actually, not all, but a lot of it can be done in-house and at a fraction or at a nominal cost. So that gives you a step change in the way that these mid-market companies can actually compete and have a fair chance of taking on the mega major organizations across different sectors and verticals.
So there were, I left my government job in around August 20 to December 2022 with AI. The moment I saw generative AI, I started seeing the RAG models, and I started realizing that this has a great utilization in our case, in the case of public sector, especially with e-office and the beast that e-office is. The bigger problem with e-office is that if you have arrived in government like me in 2020, you have no clue that there was a directive back in 2008 which told you to do this in certain scenario, or go to certain committee. Now, if you are making a decision in 2020 and you have no clue of that there was a letter existing from 2005 for you to do that, don't you see a use case of generative AI in putting all those directives, all those legislations, all those laws and procedures into a RAG model? And when I'm writing something on e-office, I can actually ask the question from a wizard that this is the case, or you're looking at the case, this is the recommendation. Do we have any directive related to this particular case that's available? Please guide me and help me cite that case and understand what my noting should be. something similar to that, do you see any utilization of that in public sector, or any other use case that you see of AI in public sector?
I must commend your optimism. It's not easy to have such brilliant ideas when you spend time in government. But that is a very, very good idea. And there's no reason why Gen AI cannot be used, to, for example, understand policies, procedures, regulations that would help govern or inform, day-to-day decisions by government servants. To be very honest, the big advantage of Gen AI that I see in government is frankly that it's perhaps added another boost to what we would call, as Usman said, advanced data analytics. Right? And yes, Gen AI can certainly be used to help automate different processes on a day-to-day basis. But really, the real benefit that I see of this is perhaps a renewed attention to the importance of big data. The only kind of recommendation that I would have here is that unlike a lot of typically when new emerging technologies come out and when they capture the public imagination, governments have a tendency to at best jump on, come up with a couple of vanity projects, and within a couple of months, or if you're lucky, a year, that's pretty much the end of it. So there are numerous use cases in government. I could go on and on extolling them. Whether we talk about innovations in healthcare, whether we talk about innovations in public sector finance and management, whether we talk about disaster management, so on and so forth. But what I would personally like to see is going beyond the height of Gen AI and really looking into what big data can do. Really using this as an opportunity because of the public imagination being so deeply captured by these new tools. Using it as a kind of stepping stone to go to the next level of using data and informing your decisions better. So yes, it's fun, it's fancy to think about these new kinds of cases and this and that, but I really, as a public sector reform person, I would always say let's stick to the basics. Let's understand how things should be sequenced, right? You can't just come in a place like Pakistan and throw Gen AI at something and expect to work miracles. There's a lot more work that has to be done before that. That would then really make AI useful to government.
So, Asif, now internet degradation, network degradation, this is the topic very hot at the moment. Other than the business side of Jazz, for a large telecom company, do you see the use case of AI in actually enhancing the network quality and enhancing the customer experience? How do you use it? Do you use it? How do you use it? Or if not, how you are planning to use it?
Thank you, Usman. The network degradation thing, I think this is a short-term thing. Ultimately, network is an essential service, and I think it will continue. The internet is not going away. We can't close it off. It will never shut down. It will grow. It will be democratized. More people will have access to it. What we are using is intelligence tools in our network to identify when a cell site will not be operational. We're monitoring such easy tools using IoT devices initially. We've now put the big data intelligence in to just build predictive analytics. And the whole wrap, we call it AI. But really, we've been doing this for multiple years already. And what we're doing is just automating it. Initially, we called it machine learning. And then somebody coined the term artificial intelligence. And then somebody said, no, it's augmented intelligence. No, it's generative AI. Whatever it is. It requires the data. The data needs to be available on a customer's handset, a customer's usage, and then to be able to put in predictive analytics to be able to forewarn a particular customer issue that can arise. We've already done that, but it doesn't just stop there. We've used the same data analytics that we use for our customers to predict who will churn, who will leave. Why can't I use that data to predict which employee will leave? What will be the value of that individual employee?
supply chain.
It gets even better. I now talk to my customers and say, can I do that for you? Not only can I tell you when your customer will leave, I will also tell you when your employee will leave. I've already built the tools internally for Jazz. I can just export them. If I take that even further, we can actually predict with about 90+% accuracy within 7 days how long that customer will stay with us, how much will they spend, and do they have a social circle that will have a positive influence on overall revenue. We can predict that with over 90% accuracy within the first 7 days. And on the basis of that, we compensate the channel and reward the channel for their effort. And what we've done is we've given them mirrors and said, get more of these customers and less of these customers. So the essence really is, the more data you collect, the more analysis you build on that data, gives you the insight, and what you have to do is you have to automate that insight in order for it to be of real generative intelligence to be able to add value. So get the data, analyze it, build the predictions, and then augment it into your business so that it actually becomes just a way of working.
Thank you, Yasir. Yasir, I'll come to you. Now, you spoke a bit about the quality of the data that we are ingesting to then have a use case for AI. What do you see for enterprises, how they ensure that the quality of the data is top-notch, how they ensure that it's the right data to ingest, how they ensure that the outcome would be as desired? For an enterprise scenario, what are your recommendations for that particular situation?
So Usman, there's two contexts to it. One is, of course, since I've been in the government, and I can tell you the government's perspective, and I have also been in the private sector. Two government companies that I've worked with, because of their leadership, the concept of data was totally different. I worked under Brigadier Salim Muin as Chairman NADRA, and I think a lot of while NADRA was formed, and how I think if there are two organizations in Pakistan that can be proud of the work and the work they have done on data, is either NADRA. I respect NADRA because of that, and second perhaps is Jazz. I have a lot of respect for Jazz because the initial days of NADRA were driven by very, very intelligent young Pakistanis who came from MIT and Stanford. I saw the initial team was all composed of Ramsler, MIT, Stanford, or youngsters who actually created that environment. और उन्होंने and kudos to Pervez Musharraf, अल्लाह उनकी मग़फ़िरत फरमाए. हम लोग मरने के बाद लोगों की अच्छाई भूल जाते हैं. NADRA would not have been formed if it was not for Pervez Musharraf's interest, and हम लोग जो एक चीज़ बार बार कहते हैं कि ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन जो होती है, you unlearn things you have learned. जब NADRA बन रही थी, so it was a major shift, and he took the responsibility of closing people's accounts. And आप सोचिए पूरे लोगों के बैंक अकाउंट्स, बिजली बंद हो गई लोगों पे, पानी बंद हो गया, टेलीफोन बंद हो गया, क्योंकि परवेज मुशर्रफ हैड इंस्ट्रक्टेड कि अगर आप लोगों ने नहीं किया. So this whole national data warehouse was created in 3 years. Similarly, I see that kind of, my son is at Jazz. So I see that excitement at Jazz, and I'm very excited what Jazz is doing. I've seen some of the AI-based projects that I'm mentoring for some companies. Jazz is doing the same kind of work. So वो वाली चीज़ है. लेकिन I think हमें data. I'll tell you a personal case. I was called in by Chairman NADRA. जो पहले टर्म इस्तेमाल हुई थी, garbage in, garbage out. फारूक अहमद खान लगारी, मरहूम सदर पाकिस्तान, उनका कार्ड आया.
That's exactly the story I want you to narrate. Please go ahead.
सदर फारूक अहमद खान लगारी का आया कार्ड, और चेयरमैन नादर ने कहा कि मैं नहीं होऊंगा, तो तुम प्लीज एक्स प्रेसिडेंट को तुम ये कार्ड दे देना, उनका शनाख्ती कार्ड। तो अनफॉर्चुनेटली पाकिस्तान में डेटा क्लेंजिंग का भी काम एक इदारे को दे दिया गया था। तो जब उन्होंने उस इदारे को 80 पैसा एक कार्ड की डेटा वेरिफिकेशन की करनी थी, अल्लाह का करना ये हुआ कि हम लोगों ने शुक्र है वो कार्ड पहले खोल लिया, तो उसमें लिखा था नाम फारूक अहमद खान लगारी, ज़ौजा मोहम्मद खान। तो उसके बाद ये एहसास हुआ कि कार्ड में नहीं जाओ। तो उसके फौरन बाद द लेसन लर्न वाज कि उस पूरे प्रोसेस को रिविजिट किया गया और फिर तीन अलग अलग बैचेस में डेटा वेरिफिकेशन हुई, फिर कहीं जाके वो डेटा वेरीफाई हुआ। सेकंड केस हुआ जब हम लोगों ने नादरा में फोटोज़ को फोटो रिकग्निशन का काम शुरू किया, तो हमें ये पता चला कि मुल्क के बहुत से लोगों ने एक बीवी के नाम पे मल्टीपल बीवियां रखी हुई हैं, क्योंकि नादरा ने FIR खोलनी शुरू कर दी थी। तो हमें लाइव ये रिजल्ट आने शुरू हो गए कि किस तरह के काम हो रहे हैं, किस तरह बाहर की नेशनैलिटीज़ के लोगों को हम लोगों ने शनाख्ती कार्ड दिए। दैट ऑल्सो नादरा के जो अपना FIS था उसकी जरिए निकला। सो ये बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं, द क्वालिटी ऑफ डेटा। और ये ट्रैजिक है हमारे यहाँ कि जहाँ पे हमें ये नहीं पता कि टैक्स पेयर्स कितने हैं, फाइलर्स कितने हैं। आई वेंट टू चाइना, जो चाइना का इंजन मैंने देखा जो लोन प्रोसेस करता था, इट हैड 12,000 इंटरसेक्शन पॉइंट्स ऑफ डेटा। पाकिस्तान में नेशनल डेटाबेस जो है वो 9 पॉइंट्स ऑफ इंटरेक्शन करता, यानी जो आपकी लोन मिलता था आपको इस बेस पे आपका बिजली का बिल कितना होता है, आपकी बैंकिंग हिस्ट्री क्या होती है, आपने पिछले 1 साल में कहाँ कहाँ विजिट किया है, हम सारी चीज़ें कर सकते थे, लेकिन somehow हम लोग नहीं कर पाए। That has been a failure in Pakistan.
Thank you. Usman, just a takeaway from this point. How do you see that an organization transforming from their legacy systems to SAP's AI platforms? How do you see the data integration, the migration, the data integrity? How is that going to play a role to ensure that the outcomes remain consistent?
Thank you, Usman. Very relevant question. मैं एक चीज़ मैं ज़रूर कहना चाहता हूँ, full respect and deference to large enterprises and had the privilege to serve many past 20 odd years. लेकिन जहाँ तक ताल्लुक है ना mid markets का, which is the organizations which I am now privileged to be engaged with across 3 countries. देखिए मिड मार्केट के अंदर फॉर एग्जांपल अगर हम ये बैक एंड इनेबलिंग टेक्नोलॉजी की बात करें, ERP हो जाए, ह्यूमन कैपिटल मैनेजमेंट हो जाए, इसके अंदर नाउ स्टैंडिंग इन 2024 इनवेरिएबली जो आपकी यूजेज है ना, प्रीवियसली इट यूज्ड टू बी कि जी आपको ERP है क्योंकि आपने बुक कीपिंग करनी है, वो CFO और अकाउंटेंट्स को पता है या शेयर होल्डर्स को पता है, नोबडी एल्स यूजिंग इट, या प्रोक्योरमेंट फाइनेंस ने अपनी ERP हो सरकार ने। लेकिन जो इस वक्त जो यूजर इंटरफेसेस हैं जो पावर है टेक्नोलॉजी की, एंड इफ यू आर स्टार्टिंग फ्रेश, एंड माय अपॉलजीज आई एम डाइवर्जिंग हियर, जस्ट वांट टू लीव दिस थॉट एंड पॉइंट अराउंड कि जी देखिए जो ERP आप लगाते हैं दैट इज फॉर द बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस अडॉप्शन एंड द एफिशिएंसी गेन्स व्हिच विल अलाउ यू टू बिकम अ सस्टेनेबल एंड फास्ट ग्रोथ कंपनी। उसके अंदर ये जो तमाम मसाइल बताए जा रहे हैं, इफ यू वर टू अडॉप्ट दोज टेक्नोलॉजीज फ्रॉम एनी tier 1 company, overwhelmingly you will be able to sidestep and avoid all the issues that are being spoken about, data garbage and so on. Because what you're doing is, just now I'm coming to what Usman ने पूछा कि जो है ना एक टर्म जो कि बहुत ज़रूरी है लोगों को समझना, वो ये कि जब आप AI अडॉप्ट करते हैं जिसकी अंडरपिनिंग टेक्नोलॉजी होस्टेड होती है ऑन अ ग्लोबल हाइपर स्केल एंड क्लाउड, you are actually changing and the operating model. You are not just migrating from a previous version of the software to the new version. Cloud adopt करना एक operating model adopt करने की मुद्रांत है। तो जब आप cloud adopt करते हैं तो इसके लिए you can't go and tell ऐसा है कि जी मुझे तो नहीं पता, मैं तो ऐसे ही जनरेट करता हूँ, आप मुझे सिस्टम चेंज कर देते हैं, या मेरा तो जो है ना इन्वेंट्री मॉडल ही फर्क है। If you are a cement, if you are a pharma, if you are a education or a fintech, you might as well benefit from the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of enterprises in the same field sector across the world who are doing the same thing as you are, and see what is the accrued wisdom of it. तो जब आपने क्लाउड अडॉप्ट किया तो essentially आपने एक चीज़ अडॉप्ट की जिसको हम SAP लैंग्वेज में कहते हैं क्लीन कोर. The first important thing is for any enterprise to avoid all that might be faced, and my apologies if I'm just using examples of jazz and utility stores, कि clean core adopt करें. Don't go around doing these ad hoc skunk works कि एक डिपार्टमेंट ने काम कर रहा है, दूसरा डिपार्टमेंट ने काम कर रहा है. Because if you don't, if you avoid those, तो होगा क्या कि आपका ERP एक बैक ऑफिस सेल्फ सिस्टम नहीं होगा. अगर आप सेल्स में होंगे मेरी तरह तो आप ERP पे जाकर देख सकेंगे कि आपकी जो पाइपलाइन है इसमें से कितनी ट्रांसलेट करेगी इनटू फर्म्स ऑर्डर्स. अगर आप उसके अंदर बैक ऑफिस में सप्लाई चेन में है तो यू बी एबल टू डू योर डिमांड फोरकास्टिंग बेस्ड ऑन द सेल्स पाइपलाइन दैट यू कैरी, एंड देन इन द डिमांड फोरकास्टिंग यू कैन एक्चुअली बी integrating that with your procurement inventory, because the system will be advising you कि जी आपको ये रिक्वायरमेंट चाहिए इन्वेंट्री की, मटेरियल्स की, these are the vendors from the past experience who are serving you well, उनकी ये रेटिंग्स हैं, you should actually leverage those. तो ये बेसिकली essentially SAP या जो ERP मॉड्यूल होते हैं, फाइनेंस का मॉड्यूल होता है, सेल्स एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का मॉड्यूल होता है, मटेरियल मैनेजमेंट का मॉड्यूल होता है, इनके यूज केसेस हैं जो कि आपको इस्तेमाल करने के लिए सिर्फ आपको अपना बिजनेस प्रॉब्लम चाहिए और आपको सिंपल आसान अंग्रेजी ज़बान में इस कंप्यूटर से पूछना है कि आप मुझे ये बता दो कि मैं क्या करना चाहता हूँ. So what may have taken you a week can be done in hours, if not minutes, and you can do it on the fly with your smartphones. Second, जो और चीज़ है इसके अंदर मैं देखते हैं ना कि टेक्नोलॉजी टूल्स and then the people in the processes. What is at times trivialized and left for later is कि जो people and process change है. Because bear in mind, every technology spent, every dollar of technology spent translates to $3 to $5 of human capacity and process change, which many organizations, overlook. उसके बाद आप Big Four की consulting कर रहे होते हैं, and then you are trying to catch up with whatever is a challenge. तो ये जो people angle है ना, जब आप माइग्रेट कर रहे होते हैं फ्रॉम अ लेगेसी फ्रेम ऑफ माइंड टू अ न्यू मॉडर्न फ्रेम ऑफ माइंड, तो वो आप खाली टेक्नोलॉजी अडॉप्ट नहीं कर रहे, आप उसका प्रोसेस ऑफ पीपल चेंज को भी कर रहे हैं, ताकि आप वो जो ह्यूमन रिसोर्स अट्रैक्ट कर रहे हैं, वो इसको जो भी आप लफ्ज़ देते हैं, जेनजी कह लें, मिलेनियल्स कह लें, उनको आप एक बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस अप्रोच को लेके चल रहे हैं, इरिस्पेक्टिव कि आप TCS जैसी पुरानी लॉजिस्टिक्स कंपनी है या आप एक बिल्कुल ग्रुप ऐसे उनकी नई स्टार्टअप है. यू आर ऑलवेज ट्राइंग टू मेक श्योर कि आज जो बेनिफिट FedEx ने इस्तेमाल किया बाय लेवरेजिंग एन ERP और कटिंग एज जनरेटिव AI टेक्नोलॉजी, वो आपको 2024 में अवेलेबल है टू हार्नेस एंड टू बेनिफिट अक्रॉस ऑल इंडस्ट्रीज व्हिच वी हैव मेंशन.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
So from your perspective, the people point, I'll take it to Shakil sir. Because now, for an organization like yourself, the people part is very hard. They are low-paid staff and semi-educated. How do you ensure that they are contributing to the system enough that the system continues to learn, and they are putting in the right data, and they are using the right systems in the right manner?
Training.
Okay.
For any digital transformation, it's almost a significant change to the business processes, to the workflows, and even the organizational culture. So if the staff is not capable enough to adopt the new technologies, if the staff is struggling, then there would be a resistance. The resistance leads to the failure. And the failure basically to meet the organizational objectives to adopt the new technologies. So a comprehensive training program is very essential for every digital transformation. So we ensure that every single individual who would be basically a user of the system, he should get a comprehensive training. We build their capacity. We train them that both the capabilities and the limitations of the system. So when the people know what are the capabilities and the limitation of the systems, so their fear of having the impact of the technology on their job, it reduces. When it reduces, then there will be a resistance to change will be reduced, and ultimately you will meet your objectives to success with any digital transformation. This is what we have done.
Thank you. Thank you, Shakil sir. So on that note, Sumera, I'll end it on you and give us some, and hopefully on a hopeful note, Give us some inputs on how do you see the young entrepreneurs changing the traditional businesses of this country using AI. We're talking about agriculture, we're talking about trading, we're talking about retail, we're talking about all that we take for traditional business. How do you see this going to completely transform over the next 10 years?
I think I'm very optimistic because as part of my work, I get to listen to business ideas that come from women, young girls, Gilgit and Baltistan, selling customized jewelry over e-commerce platforms, integrating features that AI has to offer in terms of how people can actually see themselves, and online you can virtually see how you're dressing and change and everything. So we're talking about, and I completely sort of I agree with what we've heard from the fellow panelists with taking AI also with that kind of caution and not hyperbolating as we've seen previous waves. That in its place. Having said that, we can't really undermine the potential. And we're talking about, when we talk about young entrepreneurs, we're talking about the Gen Zs, they're first adapters. They've seen this and they're very eager to, experiment. And I think with that, there's hope that, they'll be able to sort of learn and stumble and learn again. What I do think is really important, two things I feel, that at the end of the day, anything, whether it's AI or any transformative digital technology, we will need a good digital infrastructure. That's, of course, that has to come from, of course, the government, and everybody sort of, we also touched upon, the challenges with, the internet and all of that. So a better framework and infrastructure will enable that learning, that opportunity. And secondly, I think that, we need to, so startups essentially, they want to go experiment, fail fast, learn fast. That's their mantra. And if you want to take that, I think there's good potential. There's a lot of learning. So let's be hopeful in what AI can really offer to not just the bigger companies, but also to these young people who are eventually going to shape the way of our country and then at large at the world as well.
Thank you, Samara. And without using SAP Joules, I can now predict that my premier host has banned me from ever taking this mic again. On this note, thank you very much, my fellow panelists. I'm grateful. Thank you.
I'm going to ask the panelists to stay on stage while we quickly hand out the mementos. Can I please have Siddharth Saab, Sohail Saab, and Amit Shah Saab on stage, please. So I'm going to race through these, but Osman, you took some overtime, but it was worth it, I think. As long as people are listening and are engaged, that's what matters. First and foremost, we'll give our first memento to our moderator, Mr. Osman Nasir. Oh, I know, the hypoglycemia is setting in. All right, next up, Ms. Sumaira Abbasi. I'm going to allow for the photographs. Yes, big smiles everywhere. Yasir Ansari Sahab. Mr. Shakil Ahmed. Mr. Asif Aziz. Mr. Taimur Malik. And Mr. Osman Khan. All right, thank you, gentlemen. And seeing that all of you took your mementos and walked off, I'm just going to skip the photo part because the last group of panelists made it so much easier for me. So Zohaib, this is going to have to be handed off to you, where you do the group photograph with this panel. It's not like they're all. You guys back in for the group photo? If you could just line up in front of the stage, just very quickly. Agar aap log yahan hai. Where's our moderator, Usman? If you could bring your team together. Hannah, just like sort of, Usman, you were the first person to walk off. और वहीं पे group photo के ख्वाब जो है ना वो as your bag making us. All right, come along. Gentlemen, yes.
Will be okay? He's also
all right. I had to do this because, you know, everyone showed up despite the roadblocks and the rains and everything. So this just goes to show how resilient and awesome Islamabad has been. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's finally time for the closing remarks by the champion and the chairman. I think they're almost synonymous of excellence delivered, Mr. Sajjad Syed. Now, I've spent the entire day doing these really, really detailed profiles for everyone else, so I have to do it now again, right? So many of you know Sajjad Saab, who has a diverse background spanning energy, IT, public sectors, and so many more. He began his career at Schlumberger Inc., where he was leading multicultural teams serving across 15 countries, and subsequently he held leading positions at the Punjab IT Board and PwC, where he led major digital transformation projects across the country. Now, his career trajectory shifted to the ERP industry when he joined Oracle to manage operations in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Maldives, and Bhutan. And then he served as managing director for SAP in Pakistan. Sajjad Saab's career combines not just technical expertise, strategic leadership, but also really intense dedication to innovation. Another word I don't use very often, pioneer innovation. Making him a strong presence in the IT and technology sectors. In 2010, the Excellence Delivered baby was born, and Sajjad Saab founded Excellence Delivered. And this young baby or organization quickly made a mark as the fastest growing SAP partner 2011. And under Sir's leadership, EXD expanded to 12 countries and is the only SAP Platinum partner from Pakistan, which says a lot. Known for their innovation-oriented professionalism, the company has undertaken extensive AI and robotics implementation projects for EU and US-based businesses. And just last year, EXD was recognized for notable advancements in AI with their innovative BrainBox, which secured a US patent earning merit and distinction in the Asia Pacific ICT 2023 awards. And also, by the way, they just very recently received the HBL Pasha ICT awards for best in IoT technology. Now, I could go on and on, but I know that I am the only person standing between you and a late lunch. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for the champion and chairman of Excellence Delivered, Mr. Sajjad Syed. Wherever you wish, sir, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much, Ji. Assalamu alaikum. And first of all, give yourself a round of applause for being here today. I think it was not very easy, first of all, to show up, and for those of you who showed up very early, you had to wait an extra hour, and I apologize for that. और मैं सबको यही कह रहा था कि सुबह पहले वो सिक्योरिटी का इशू था एंड देन इट स्टार्टेड रेनिंग, अल्लाह का शुक्र है कोई नहीं आया बिकॉज बारिंग दैट ऑलमोस्ट ऑल नेचुरल of every kind was there. Really grateful and really humble to be here. I very good 50-page presentation. I hope you don't mind if I go through that. As a company, जी हम लोग we are a big fan of innovation, and that is something that we've always leveraged on. और EXT के अंदर 2015 के अंदर and very few Pakistani companies do that, unfortunately. 2015 में हम लोगों ने अपना एक R&D का सेल बनाया था, and that's where we started focusing purely on research and development, not just run-of-the-mill काम जब ERP की implementations करते हैं software की and so on and so forth. And in that we focused on two main areas. One was IoT, which ended up in something called a brain box, where we got a US patent, and if it works, it could be a multi-billion-dollar valuation thing. And the other one was artificial intelligence, जहाँ पे हमने दो main areas में काम करना शुरू किया. One of them turned out to be something that you call ChatGPT, और ये हम ChatGPT before it was called ChatGPT OpenAI में काम कर रहे थे. Another product that we picked was Anthropic, which ended up being was chosen by SAP as their core AI product. AI की disruption जो है जी, that is just as big a disruption जो इंटरनेट ने की हमारी जिंदगी में, उतना ही बड़ा इम्पैक्ट है. जैसे मोबाइल टेक्नोलॉजी ने आर्टिफिशियल और इसने इंटरनेट ने हमारी जिंदगी को, लाइफ को, वर्क को ट्रांसफॉर्म किया, एआई भी उतना ही ट्रांसफॉर्म करेगा. एंड वी नीड टू एम्ब्रेस इट, वी नीड टू वर्क विद इट, वी नीड टू लर्न फ्रॉम इट, एंड वी नीड टू, और इसमें चॉइस नहीं होगी. जैसे इंटरनेट के ज़माने में चॉइस नहीं थी हमारे पास, राइट? यहाँ पे भी यही हो. और मुझे बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग लगा कि साकिब ने जब MD SAP डिग्री कर रहे थे तो उन्होंने कहा हाउ रेलेवेंट SAP इज, राइट? नॉट अ लॉट ऑफ यू मे बी हैव नॉट हर्ड, कि थोड़ा बहुत आपने EXT के बारे में सुना होगा, बट मे बी यू डोंट नो हाउ रेलेवेंट वी आर टू यू. सो साकिब ने तो आज ये बात की, हम लोगों ने, मैं बैठा हूँ यही सोच रहा था, मैंने मार्केटिंग को रिक्वेस्ट की टेक डाउन दैट ओल्ड वीडियो. 2013 में विद आवर ओल्ड लोगो वी मेड अ वीडियो ऑफ व्हाट आवर टच पॉइंट्स टू यू आर. So we made a little video which was our first marketing feel. वैसे हम इतनी marketing करते नहीं, but if you could just play that, it's like a 2-minute thing, and then I will get back from you and finish that. So this is our old logo, so ignore that. इसका sound भी है. There's a sound as well. So from the morning to the evening, from the time you get up to the time you go to bed, हम लोग ये जितनी चीज़ें आप देख रहे हैं, ये सारी वो कंपनीज ने बनाई हैं जिनमें EXT ने अपनी सर्विसेज और सॉफ्टवेयर लगाया. Be it FMCGs, be it textiles, FMCGs, and by the way, the number of these logos अब बहुत ज़्यादा हो गए. To your automotive, अभी automotive की भी और बहुत सारी कंपनीज आ गई. To the education institutions, again बहुत सारी यूनिवर्सिटीज अब ज़्यादा हो गई हैं. ये लाभ है. To telcos, again, there's many more telco companies now. यार आपका साउंड नहीं आ रहा है. Engineering and construction, pharma, paper and board. उस जमाने में खाली पैकेजेस था, 3-4 और भी हैं. Pharmaceuticals, major brands. अपैरल के अंदर भी इस वक्त पाकिस्तान में आई थिंक वी हैंडल द मोस्ट ब्रांड्स इन टेक्सटाइल्स. बैंकिंग में नंबर ऑफ मोर बैंक्स नाउ. इन मीडिया मेनी मीडिया हाउसेस, एंड फाइनली इन यूटिलिटीज, फेस्को, बेमको, KE, and many more. So we don't realize that over the years how much relevance that the list is 7 years old, so there's a lot more to it than we are seeing today. और over the years, अभी तक जो एक चीज़ आप लोगों ने AI के तौर पे देखनी है कि AI is something that is going to redefine the way we work. We need to embrace it, we need to learn from it, and we need to see how it can optimize our work. AI, again, a lot of people say, और लोग इंटरनेट के बारे में भी ये कहते थे, ERP के बारे में भी कहते थे, it is a replacement of human. It never will be. But AI will make a lot of our decisions rational. AI की एक बहुत बड़ी स्ट्रेंथ है कि कुछ वो चीज़ें भी देख लेते हैं नॉलेज में जो हम नहीं देखते। अभी टिपिकल एग्जांपल जो एक दो स्पीकर ने दी भी कि जब आप AI देखते हैं, जब हम लोग डिसीजन लेते हैं तो हम एक सर्टन डेटा सेट को देखते हैं, हम एक सर्टन फैक्ट्स को देते हैं विद आवर ओन बायसेस। अगर आपको कोई एक लीडर पसंद है तो उसकी हर अच्छी और बुरी बात ठीक होती है, और अगर आपको दूसरा पसंद है तो उसकी हर बुरी बात देखते हैं। बिकॉज हम बहुत सारे डेटा को, और हमारे में there's an element called confirmation bias, साइकोलॉजिकल इशू, जिसमें हम डेटा ही को देखते हैं जो हमारे बायसेस के साथ एग्री करता है और दूसरे को हम इग्नोर कर देते हैं। AI is beyond that. अभी रिसेंटली जो इंटरनेट का इशू हुआ, आई एम श्योर somebody when they made that decision, they wanted to achieve an objective, they went ahead and achieved that objective, not knowing कि उसके बाकी business impacts क्या होंगे of that particular decision, of that particular approach. Had मेरे ख्याल में had there been an AI engine out there, maybe the decision would have been very different, or maybe it could have been done differently and achieved the same objective that everybody wanted to achieve, but in a very different approach, ताकि इतने losses ना हो. So AI के मॉडल पे जब भी आप देखो तो उसके अंदर उसकी नॉलेज बेस ज्यादा होती है. I was very lucky जी. I took my first artificial intelligence course when I was studying as a young student in America in 1989. Very few people, I'm sure, were born at that time. And my professor at that time was somebody called George Nagy, who was the inventor of neural networks. और उसने 1970s में अपनी PhD की थी neural networks से, which is the heart of your chat GPT and AI and whatnot. So it is not a new technology. It's quite a tried and tested technology. Problem ये पहले क्यों नहीं आई? क्योंकि डेटा नहीं था. सोशल मीडिया ने हमें डेटा दे दिया, NVIDIA और Google और Amazon, AWS ने हमें compute power दे दी, and that is what we have AI today. So AI, it is, इसको ट्रस्ट करें एज ए टेक्नोलॉजी, इट इज अ डिसीजन सपोर्ट सिस्टम. पहले भी होते थे, पहले रिपोर्ट आ जाती थी, अब ये आपको जनरली ज्यादा डेटा देकर सपोर्ट करेगा. लुक एट इट एज योर डिजिटल ट्विन. इट इज नथिंग टू बी वरीड अबाउट. क्या ये गलत फैसले? अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल टर्न अराउंड एंड से कि जी आई विल मेक इनकरेक्ट डिसीजंस. डोंट यू? Don't me? I have made more incorrect decisions. My wife made one a long time, a few decades ago. But a lot of it, they make तो ठीक और गलत फैसले हम ही करते हैं. And but the beauty of AI is that it has something called a forward propagation where this model develops, and it has something called a backward propagation where it corrects itself and learns. हम लोग तो बहुत गलती रिपीट भी करते हैं. The beauty of AI, it generally doesn't repeat a mistake. So eventually, I would believe and I would tend to agree that AI का decision in certain societies हमारी जहाँ पे rational decision making नहीं होती, ideological decision making होती है, AI will give you better business outcomes. Will give you better business. With this, I don't want to stand. और हमने by the way 5-6 projects कर लिए AI के using these models, and alhamdulillah all of them working very well. And with this, I want to thank you all. I am not going to stand between you and lunch. Thank you very much for coming, and I really apologize for being late. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to address.
So I have a question. For SMEs, what do you think the business that already has started years ago, so what can AI do to improve it in that context, which has already started years ago?
जी डेटा है?
जी.
अच्छा, अगर आप मेरी प्रेजेंटेशन में जो नेटवर्क सा बना हुआ है, जरा वो दिखा. Very good question जी. So AI का जो मॉडल होता है उसको आपको we will show. By the way, you haven't seen AI, right? Chat GPT किसी ने देखा है? So today we'll show you Chat GPT. आगे चलें. ये मेरी एक बड़ी प्रेजेंटेशन दी थी, बस let's go past and see कितने किस्म के AI होते हैं. आगे चलें.
Stop.
Yeah, move on. Yeah, there you go. There you go. This is what your Chat GPT or AI looks like. इसमें left side में you have inputs, and on this side you have what we call the outputs, and बीच में ये जो squares हैं, these are your neurons, these are your learning patterns. और इनमें से कुछ light up हो जाते हैं based on how these characters, these lines work, which are your biases, your traits, your formulas. और इन्हीं को बार बार ट्रेन करते हैं. पहले फॉरवर्ड प्रोपगेशन होती है जहाँ पे हमारा रिजल्ट आता है, और फिर यहाँ से पता चलता है रिजल्ट ठीक है कि नहीं. जो हम कहते हैं ना AI का मॉडल ट्रेन हो रहा है, और यहाँ पे अगर गलत आ जाए और गलत आता है, we go back and we fix these formulas till the time we are uniquely sure कि आंसर ठीक है. Now, if you have the old data, we train the system on your old data. We train the system on your old data and then we run it by the new one. और बहुत interesting इसके models हैं in your demand forecasting in FMCGs, जहाँ पे आप पीछे से data लेके आते हो, एक legacy data डालते हो और उससे ये जज करने की कोशिश करते हो कि आपके F7 के किस फ्रीजर में कितनी चॉकबार चाहिए और कितनी आइसक्रीम चाहिए, एक किस्म की और दूसरी और कितनी तीसरी किस्म की, क्योंकि अगर बच्चे चॉकबार भी खाने जा रहे हैं और उन्हें चॉकबार मांगी और आपकी ना मिली और दूसरी कंपनी की तो दूसरी उठा लेंगे, दैट्स लॉस है। और अगर एक्स्ट्रा चॉकबार हुई और उधर पड़ी रही और किसी ने खरीदी नहीं तो वो आपका कैश पड़ा। सो दैट फॉरवर्ड एंड बैकवर्ड मूवमेंट इवेंचुअली गिव्स यू द लर्निंग मॉडल। द डिमांड फोरकास्टिंग में इसके बहुत रोल है और वैसे सेल में बहुत रोल है। A lot of it in the fashion industry. For instance, I want to develop a model कि किस तरीके से फैशन इंडस्ट्री मूव करती है, कौन से कलर्स, कौन से प्लानिंग, कौन सी चीजें जो है which would define के अगले ट्रेंड्स क्या हैं, what are the variables that impact it. और ये सारे नोट्स और जो आप लाइंस देख रहे हैं, these are the various variables that impact. For instance, आपकी फूड या रेस्टोरेंट बिजनेस में this could be your GDP, this could be your disposable income. So there could be many variables which could impact that. वो आपने आइडेंटिफाई करना है, वो जनरली इंसान ही करता है, पर अगर रिजल्ट गलत है तो यू कैन टर्न अराउंड एंड से कि कोई वेरिएबल मिसिंग है, राइट? सो यू कैन ऐड दैट. सो इफ देयर आर नो अदर क्वेश्चंस ऑन द टेक्निकल साइड वी कैन गो टू द जी. You are bringing out the nerd in me.
So I was particularly fascinated with the fact that decision making improve होती है through the use of AI, especially SAP के perspective से. So I understand जो आपका डेटा कंपनी का है वो तो वो लेवरेज करते हैं. What about industry insights? Since आपने कहा कि हर चीज SAP में कनेक्टेड है, are you also leveraging those industry insights? And if you are, तो फिर data protection perspective
जी, दो एलिमेंट्स होते हैं. बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन है जी. AI का बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज ये होता है कि आप दूसरों का डेटा लेना चाहते हैं, अपने नहीं लेना चाहते. And these systems are designed in that manner. क्योंकि ये हम मॉडल अपना ट्रेन कर रहे हैं तो इसकी इनपुट्स जो हैं, जो यहाँ पे हैं, इसमें कुछ इनपुट्स आपके अपने सिस्टम से आएंगी, कुछ आप बाहर से लेके आएंगे, पर आउटपुट्स हम अपने पास ही रखेंगे. आउटपुट्स हम कहीं नहीं बाहर जाने देंगे. सो आप इसमें करते ये कि यू बिल्ड अ वॉल अराउंड इट एंड व्हाट यू सी कि कुछ इनपुट्स आपके अपने, फॉर इंस्टेंस आपने अपनी सेल्स ले आया या आपने अपनी फोरकास्ट, अपने सेल्स के डेटा ले आया, अपनी कॉस्ट स्ट्रक्चर ले आया एंड नाउ यू वांट टू कंपेयर इट टू एन इंडस्ट्रियल बेंचमार्क, कि ग्लोबल इंडस्ट्री जो आपको इंटरनेट से डेटा मिले, नो प्रॉब्लम, ब्रिंग इट हियर एंड ब्रिंग इट हियर इन रियल टाइम. वो डेटा यहाँ से फीड होता जाएगा तो आपके वेरिएबल्स को इम्पैक्ट करता जाएगा, पर आउटपुट जो है कि वो आपने अकल अपने पास ही रखी, वो नहीं जाना चाहिए. और यहाँ पे आई थिंक देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड एन एआई अपार्थाइड दैट्स गोइंग टू हैपन, बट एनीवे दैट्स समथिंग दैट फॉर अनदर मोर ऑन एन एथिकल एंड सोशल कॉन्टेक्स्ट.
I am also talking about external input from within the SAP network.
ये वो आ जाता है ना. देखिए इनकी जो वेरिएबल्स हैं ये तो आपके SAP के नेटवर्क से आ गए. फॉर एग्जांपल आपका इंटरनल डेटा है, 2-3 डेटा आपने सिक्योरिटीज एंड एक्सचेंज कमीशन से लिया, स्टेट बैंक का डेटा लिया, स्टेट बैंक का डेटा लिया. आई वुड नॉट कमेंट कि आप किसी और डेटा ब्रीच करके लेके आएंगे, दैट्स नॉट अलाउड. वो एथिकल इश्यूज हैं, बट यस जो पब्लिक अवेलेबल डेटा है यू कैन इनकॉर्पोरेट. थैंक यू जी. So if there are no other questions, I think we should break for lunch.
But you're here for lunch, right?
So I'm here for lunch and yeah, so if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to address.
You may grab the champion during lunch, not physically once again. Yeah, I mean, पता चला कल कोई मुझसे आके कहते कि मुझे तुमने ही तो कहा था. All right, Islamabad, you've been so absolutely wonderful. Thank you for turning up despite all of the difficulties and being such an engaged, interactive audience. Please enjoy lunch and welcome to the future.